If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Special thank you to Landmark Coffee Roasters, a sponsor for this podcast. If you haven't tasted their coffee, you got to go check it out. Some of the best beans in Southern California. LandmarkRoasters.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Sumner in the Stoke House. Brian, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Good?
Good. You are a pro skater, Christian pastor, traveling evangelist through many different medias, originally from Liverpool, England.
Yeah.
You came to the United States at age 15 to pursue a career of professional skateboarding. You received great notoriety in the UK for winning contests with your stair handrail skating. After finishing school and 6 months in art college in Liverpool, you came to the U.S. at age 16 to further the skateboarding career. You've been on many skate tours, including Tony Hawk's skate tour, involved in movies, TV shows, YouTube shows. You've established a podcast called Foolishness, and based on the scripture. I love it. Mm-hmm. So good. A little birdie told me you are also a jiu-jitsu rolling beast. Like, you'll choke pastors out if you need to. Like, no, like, you'll make them tap, okay?
A few of them. Heretics.
We need you to do that more. You are also the author of a book called Never Fail. So here it is. 30-day devotional for married couples, courting, single. Thank you for bringing me a copy. I can't wait to dive into it.
Amen.
And you are married, and you have a beautiful story, and God has blessed you with 3 kids. Brian, dude, welcome to Stoke House.
Hey, it's cool. You know, I told you just driving up, coming from England, it's an hour and 40 drive. Yes, folks, we hit the LA traffic. It's real. Every ethnicity driving everywhere. People yelling already. I felt like I was in a taxi.
Yes.
But I'm in America.
Yeah.
And I'm hanging out with you guys, and there's some fellowship, and we're digging into, testimonies about the Lord. So thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
And for whatever you put in this drink that's keeping me awake.
Elixir.
I don't know what that is, but I'm awake now. So.
Yeah, the black gold, we call it. The coffee, the espresso. Brian, we don't know each other, man. Yeah. This is the first time we've ever met right now.
Yes.
And, we've met online.
Yeah.
But a mutual friend started bragging about you and pumping you up and just like, dude, you got to meet Brian. You got to get him on the podcast sometime. And I was like, really? And anyways, the connection came, and here we are.
Yeah. Joshua Cisco, yeah.
Yes, Josh Cisco.
Long time watch skate, surf rat, Calvary kid, church planner.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my friends go to his church, even in the pandemic when churches weren't open as much,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were there with Josh. So
he was in the park.
He was in the park.
Yeah.
And, he's being diligent, a young man pursuing the Lord. And amen, Josh. Yeah.
I met Josh in Mexico, of all places, like 15 years. I don't know how long. It was a long time ago. But you got connected to Calvary, and you grew up in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Where the Beatles come from. Is that right?
My mom used to go to the Cavern, watch the Beatles often.
Wow.
That's just, the city. And
what's the Cavern?
So it's the place where they all played. So, let's say us 4 in this room where the Beatles were playing in a little shed kind of like this.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And so they're imitating Buddy Holly, and the blues and the jazz and the rest, and they're fine-tuning their craft.
Unreal.
And there's my mom, Norma Jean, watching, or my dad, or Liverpool's big, but it's a tight culture. So you're just involved in everything. So, yeah, Liverpool, and then Liverpool football team, and then... That's kind of it, It's a crazy city, so.
And so obviously you started skating as a young kid.
Yep.
When did you get your first board?
I watched that movie, Police Academy 4,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got to say this because people don't get it. But, picture being in England. There's you and me going to school.
Sure.
We're looking to America.
Yeah.
Kind of this American invasion in the 90s came in. So it's like, here's The Simpsons, here's WWF.
Sure.
And Married with Children was on the airwaves. So to you, it's just like some random show. To me, it's like this American show.
Yeah.
And Police Academy was like the biggest thing ever. And
Wow.
in that, they were David Spade skating.
Yeah.
So I watch it. I'm seeing ollies and grinds like Tony Hawk and these people.
Yeah.
You have those crappy little plastic toy skateboards.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, is this real? And through that, I started just wanting to skate. Made it to New Jersey to visit my sisters who were nannying. Got a skateboard. Went back to Liverpool. Fell in love.
Wow, you got your skateboard in Jersey.
We had the little kind of out of the catalogs you'd order. They weren't good though.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, my sister Elaine took me by the surf shop. We went in on my 13th birthday. Bought a real skateboard.
Remember what kind of board?
Oh yeah, it was a Powell, Pat Brennan. It had adventure trucks, bullet wheels.
Wow.
Look. And I'll say this, England's kind of rough and crazy. So when we're in school, you know, about the age of 12, 13, people are starting to do acid and do trips, and brothers are doing drugs, a lot of violence, fighting.
Wow.
And I was just over it. I just wanted to get away, and skating was kind of a way out. So when I went back as a skater, it was like a subculture. You were kind of mocked for big clothes, and you weren't like everyone else, even though I got into a lot of fights and trouble, so I knew everyone. And that kind of just kept me away from, you know, I'd be going to school in the morning, sitting across from you, and you did acid last night, or she was doing this, and I'm this timid kid. Like, I was athletic and stuff and got into it, but I don't want to mess with this.
Right.
Skating was like a way out, and it pointed me to America, which I was falling in love with. So it's kind of crazy now as a Christian saying, Lord, did you use that to keep me focused on what you'd have in the future? But
how did you, were there other skaters around, like in your town or something?
Yeah.
Like, there were.
Oh, yeah.
And so you had your board, and I mean, I'm trying to think, like, how'd you start learning your tricks? How'd you start going? Like, were you scraping for video VHS everywhere?
Oh, yeah.
Like that?
Yeah. So you skate, and there was a kid in school called Mossy, and he could ollie, I guess, whatever that was, and I didn't know what that was. Met him, met a few other skaters, and you know, Liverpool's a city, so it's giant brick buildings, monument. It's basically a skate park.
Okay.
You know, it's beautiful.
Wow.
So you meet a couple kids, they talk about skaters in the city. It's like being in LA or New York.
Sure.
It's just always existed. Then we go into the city. I meet 40, 50 skaters. There's already some getting sponsored. They're showing you.
Wow.
And in a way, if you wanted to, you know, you're yourself as a pastor, we're made for community. There's a community who loves football. There's a community that's kind of like rowdy.
Sure.
And this is a community of skaters. It became a new family. Most of them are older than me. And we travel on trains far. We'd go to France. We'd go to Spain. I'm 13, 14.
Wow.
My parents are looking at me with a response. You know, I'm growing up quick because guys like yourself are with me.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shaped, gave me a discipline, gave me a focus, gave me a drive. And so I fell in love with it. I finished school at 15, like you said, you know, went to art school just to be in the city to skate. And I'll just say this, you know, growing up, we have no idea about God. No one ever talked about Jesus.
Really?
I opened the Bible once and I read the word tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
I read tabernacle like something out of SpongeBob, and I put it down as this book is weird. Tabernacle.
Yeah.
And I just never read it again.
Wow.
And so I'm saying that to say, I really didn't have a Christian friend. I was around Muslims, atheists, Liverpool's eclectic city. So I'm just this kid with buck teeth, bowl head, skating. That's it.
It's interesting you said that skating brought you discipline and focus, and a lot of people look at skaters and surfers as like these sloppy dudes who like don't have any drive or discipline or anything. Like, could you explain that a little bit?
It's like, you know,
like what builds that?
It's so I'm, you know, like probably like yourself or anyone else in here, you know, you're growing up, who are your heroes? Well, to most of us, Bruce Lee to some degree.
Right.
Here's this 5'6", 5'9" Asian guy, you know, who's actually half English. People don't know that in gym. And born in San Francisco, goes back to China. And here he is thriving. I'm reading his books. I'm looking at him. I'm falling in love with like his philosophy. And I'm saying that to say, Bruce said it like this. And within all of us, this kung fu expression, it's a G really. It's something you've done repetitively. And I remember reading, this is the vehicle that shows you who you are. So a skater, there's you and me. One of us is mad at our dad. The other one lost a family member. We get up and meet in the street every day and we skate. You and me are crafting something that's crafting us, like Bruce did with martial arts, like Pete Sampras when I was a kid with tennis, like Lionel Messi. You have this kind of discipline where you can go into a room and you can build that wall, you can learn guitar, you can make the best cup of coffee. All that is a human repetitively doing anything, which is what we're made to do, not to be slaves to. So now there's Brian and Josh. We want to ollie this 5-stair. We've talked about it. We've read about it. You've aimed at it. You executed it. Now you want to go to a 6-stair. So you've got 20 years of discipline, 5 years of discipline doing it. Oh, you want to go do construction? You can do it. Unless you're lazy and you're a bum and you're caught up in stuff. But skating is a craft. My oldest son, Dakota, 23, his baseball is the same thing. But my point is that Bruce Lee said, you know, it's like a sculptor who strips away the clay till the truth is revealed. When you do it daily, you see what works or doesn't. You know the famous story where they go to attack the samurai and he's sitting there eating noodles and he catches a fly with the chopsticks. well, they don't want to fight with them because if you can do this with chopsticks, what can you do with a sword? So to all you samurai skateboarder surfers, but the rest of them, if they're just stoners sitting around doing nothing, I mean, maybe don't hire them, you know, hire the disciplined ones.
That's so good. Repetition in the same direction over a long period of time creates success. I mean, it's just, that discipline can set your mind, train your mind basically to do anything that you want to.
Yeah, when I got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, I came home and my son's like, you know, he's having a bad day, my youngest.
Yeah.
And he's like probably 9 or so. And he's like, you know, you're only a blue belt because you kept showing up. Yeah. And I was like, amen.
Wow.
Part of you guys listening today, some of you just need to show up, get back in church, open the word, press into God. You know what it's like. You go through the worst week, you go there. That one worship song you weren't even thinking about, that one lyric is like, boom. Or the pastor says something that you wouldn't have considered the week before. It's just showing up and doing it and pressing it in. So
dude.
We jumped about an hour and 40 minutes.
So good.
There, but stay hooked, folks. We're gonna go deeper.
It's so good. So Jersey, get the skateboard back to Liverpool, start skating. You climb the ladder. You're jumping stairs. You're grinding rails. And boom, you get sponsored, and you move to 16. You move to the U.S.
Yeah, because skating had this boom, you know. I know I'm a little bit older than yourself, but you had the Christian Assoys, Tony Hawk, all that kind of in the 80s.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater already come out?
No,
video game?
No, so that's what I'm saying. So you had all this expression, you know, the spandex and the crazy contest. Yeah. Then it kind of went away. Then you had the baggy pants, small wheels, and that's when I started. So I'm getting these old videos. I'm looking at it. Everything. And that was right about to come in. I mean, that was definitely your generation. Yeah. So now I'm getting, like, starting to get noticed, jumping down stuff, winning some contests. And a guy from my hometown, Jeff Rowley, like one of my idols growing up, you know, amazing skater, they've moved to LA with flip skateboards. Oh, we want some guys back in England. There's Brian, he's jumping off stuff. It's only been a couple of years. They give me product, want to come over to America. They make the English, you know, British invasion. They invite me. And in England, you finish school when you're 15, 16.
Really?
So I'm finishing right on time.
Wow.
I go to art school, but all I want to do is skate. I get invited to come over for 3 months, and I would come for 3 months, go back, come for 3 months, go back. So now doing that 2 or 3 times. I'm sponsored, Tony Hawk and the brand Birdhouse. Hey, we're down. Do you want to go on tour? Crazy. But the thing is, as an amateur, you're living in a house with, you know, Andrew Reynolds, Jim Greco, Ali Bulala. You're making $400 or $500 a month, which is nothing. But when you eat Taco Bell all day, because you're English and you just found white Mexican food, you know what I mean? My mom still says quesadilla. Or quesadilla, that's tongues for quesadilla. I never met one Mexican in England. I never knew what a burrito was.
Wow.
So I'm eating Taco Bell, and we're skating all day, and then skating blows up. Then the X Games, then Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Got it.
I'm this kid with jet black hair who's 160. This is before emo and stuff existed. I'm just listening to this kind of music. Now, this is about the
97, 96, 97?
92, 93, 94 is when, like, skating started again.
Took off.
And then from what you said, from 96 to about 2000, it blew up.
Got it, yeah.
And people always say, how do you make a living? Well, you'd ride for Birdhouse and make like $3,000 a month in boards, or you'd ride for a shoe company and make $5,000 a month, or a clothing brand and maybe you make 500, but sometimes you're making like $7,000 a month from a clothing sponsor.
Wow.
So you could be making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. And then there's the games and the tech deck. So it was, you know, it's gaining the whole world, losing your soul. But you're, you know, like you live in LA, but you're not like, oh, there's J-Lo or there's so-and-so, whatever. Sure. You probably see all these people around.
Sure.
You just want what you want. And for me, all I wanted was skating. So I was accomplishing what mattered to me. I'm around all my heroes. I'm up in LA. I mean, driving up today, I'm reminiscent of, this spot's right. There's a spot right by the studio I know of. So it was really just a lot of dreams coming true, the American dream. And I'll be funny for a sec. You know, when I got to New Jersey, I went in a 7-Eleven, which I'd only heard about. Yeah. And they had Lay's barbecue chips. He's nodding his head over here. And they had this thing called a Slurpee, which we definitely didn't have in England. Yes. You could just drink, which, you know, Otto and the Simpsons drank. Yeah. And you had this thing called Caramellos. So those three things.
Squishy.
So just America was like a hook.
Yeah.
Now I'm in America. I'm sponsored. Skating's blowing up. I'm saying that part of my life, it's like telling the kid watching, you got to be the engineer or you got to work for, Elon, or you got to lead towards world peace. Everything was coming to fruition that I wanted. Nothing was bad in my life. Yeah.
So you've made it. You've made it as a young person, and probably even on paper regarding Gen Z now, because the next generation is like, if I'm not a millionaire by the time I'm like 21, like I failed in life.
Yeah.
When I have like 100,000 subscribers by the time I'm 21, I'm a dead man. It's like, but on paper you kind of have made it. I mean, in that culture, in that time, and what was going on, you were doing it.
You're out of England, you're skating, and let's be real.
Doing your dream.
Well, there's you and me. We're living together in Long Beach, per se, or Huntington.
Yeah.
Every week, you get a box of stuff showing up that's 10 skateboards, loads of stickers, you get a pro shoe. You're just around the world. Like, what do you want to be doing? Like, that's it. You're touring. And listen, and it's not this dark thing. You love these people. This is a family. This is our religion. This is our resume. And it was amazing. It was great. And I always say, I fell in love with skating at 13, and then I really didn't pursue all these girls and have all these serious girlfriends. I was more like a disciplinarian. I was just focused.
Yeah.
And the other thing people miss about my story was I wasn't a citizen. So I didn't want to get skate tickets. I didn't want to be like a party, a rager. I didn't want to, like some of my friends who got caught, drunk in like the dumpsters after skating, get sent out of America. I was like super worried about getting hurt, wanted to be here, wasn't a citizen. I was here legally. I was paying taxes, but I was just didn't want to have to go back to England. I just loved America. I just wanted the sunshine, the red cabs, and and the Lay's chips. That was the hook. Yeah.
Yeah. So but you've come out of Liverpool, and probably the most well-known skater out of England, come to America, and crazy man. I mean, it's like, so you do this run basically from 16 to what, 22, 25?
And I'd say, obviously guys like Jeff Rowley, Tom Penny, I mean, there's legends who came out of there who to me are like super pros, but my generation, the kids that went into Zoomies or bought my pro shoe with the Union Jack on, I'm maybe their favorite skater. But I do this run, everything's good, and really where it changed was at the age of 19, I fell in love. And when I'm preaching in a church, who did I fall in love with? And they're all like, Jesus. I'm like, no, I fell in love with a girl. And I always joke because I have to tell them I'm not speaking with an accent.
Yeah.
There's 3 Americans in this room. You're the one speaking with an accent.
Yeah.
Because I'm English. You're trying to speak English. Even though, kids, this is not English. So then I fall in love with a girl, drives on the wrong side of the road, calls it football, soccer. Which, listen, the reason you guys call it soccer is they shortened it from associate football. So they took the sock from associate. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It's like, really? Soccer? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, but that, and then we got...
And you guys call it gridiron, right?
Honestly, I can't even drive back there. I mean, I'm more American than anything. I've been here 27
Sorry,
years.
I said you guys. You've been here longer here than you were.
I've never drove in England. I mean,
but the world calls what we call American football gridiron.
Oh, we just call it American football.
Okay, American football.
Yeah, because what is gridiron? Is it like
well, I think gridiron is basically rugby with pads on, right?
Oh,
so American football, but then soccer is what the world calls football.
Yeah, which I always joke because you don't really use your foot in American football. You use your head, and it's like maybe 5 times or something, every hour.
So. This is classic America, though. Our language, it kind of doesn't make sense. It basically is just a bunch of things piled
And we won't even talk about, aluminium or aluminum.
Aluminium.
So, I heard both of us have it wrong. I heard the way it was really said.
Yeah.
We both missed it.
Yeah.
So... To everyone listening, like, what is this about, guys? Yeah, life could be confusing.
Yes, yeah.
But to your point, everything's going good, and then we're about to. What do I do?
You fall in love, 19.
Yep. Getting a visa through Birdhouse, which is Tony Hawk's company. You're on the cover of the magazines, the videos. And just so people listen, it isn't like in skating, oh, here's Tony Hawk, or here's this person. You were always around everyone. I'm seeing you maybe at a skate spot today. I'll see you at a trade show next month. We're going on tour here. Everyone in the industry knows everyone. It's so close.
Yeah.
And now I'm meeting this American girl from Huntington Beach who had been out in New Jersey with her boyfriend. She'd actually dropped her friend off to hang out with me, one of the first girls I ever hung out with in America. So like, what's going on here? And we just start connecting. And for 4 months, every single day, hanging out, nonstop in love. I mean, quick. I'm going to go back to England. I just can't bear to not see her. So we drive out to Vegas. I don't know if you read that online.
No, I didn't.
So my family, her family's Italian,
Okay.
Sicilian Italian.
Sicilian.
So we didn't want to mess them up.
Yeah.
And then Mexicans, you got pretty much a lot of fire in there too.
Yeah.
So you got this side of her family, my side of the family. I'm about to go back to England. I'm just like, babe, no, I'll be back in a couple of months. I can't do this. Drove out to Vegas, decided, bought a ring, drove out to Vegas, got married right off the strip, told 2 people.
Wow.
Probably within that trip somewhere, we're pregnant because 10 months later, my son shows up.
Wow.
So here I am, look, on top of the world, plenty of money, in love with this girl,
Yeah.
all's good,
Yeah.
having no clue about life, no clue about God or marriage. And, you know, who told you about marriage at 19? Well, yes, you, because you're in church. But to the regular person,
Right.
you're told to follow your heart, do whatever.
Right.
And listen, I've got to say this. We really loved each other. We fell in love. We weren't thinking, go be unfaithful. We weren't thinking, this
Right.
isn't the right person. But our best attempts at love still fall short. So within those first 2 years, as things are changing, is this the right person? What are we doing? I mean, we just began to fight an issue. It was crazy. So much happened from 20 to about 24 with me that was like, would have done most people in. So, yeah.
Because you're married, you're still trying to skate, like you're single.
Yeah.
You got a baby boy, and you got to do the family thing, and you're supposed to do the dad thing, but
Which I wanna do.
You're trying
Yeah.
to do the pro skater thing, and you got all these dudes pulling at you to do this, and everybody's
Yeah.
challenging each other to grow better, and you get the obsession of trying to stay at the top, and
Yeah. Basically, in a word, if you just had a flash on the screen, you could just say responsibility because we had no clue. And even what we're talking about this generation, but I'd say this to the young dads, the mums, here's what happens. And you'll know this. You might not have thought about it till I say it because it was true of us. I'm hanging out with this girl. Let's say it's your sister for 4 months and Brian's the best and she's the best and we're connecting. That's relating. And relating is what a relationship is. I'm bringing her shoes. I'm showing up to work. I'm getting that black bean burrito, which I didn't really like, but she was working there.
Yeah.
We're driving to LA to La Cienega, get to Real Food Daily every night, falling in love to the Get Up Kids and Saves the Day and all this music. Well, now we're pregnant and your sister, that's my wife, her feet are growing, your hair falls out, your body's changing.
Sure.
She's a mom the second she knows she's pregnant.
Wow.
But you're not a dad, Josh, till you put your hand on her stomach or the baby's here.
Wow.
So where we've had so much relating, passion, staying up late, doing whatever, this real emotion, romance, the honeymoon stage, if you like, now it's taking care of her, which I want to.
Yeah.
But she's putting her energy on the kid, and I'm like, where are we? And we're still being close, and we're still in love and everything. But I'm getting used to like, okay, wait, I got to figure this out at 19. Just turning pro. At the same time, once the baby's here, I'm adapted now to like, okay, I guess we're kind of on cruise control. And now our relating's like diapers and late nights and rubbing your feet. And I love all that stuff. I want to do this. I'm a purist. I want to do what's right.
Yes.
But then she's coming back into her body like, are we in the same place? And so within that, 18 month to 2 year, you've, like Greg Laurie says, I've been married to 5 women.
Yeah.
So that's a part of life. So when we say through thick or thin, till death do we part, better or worse, we're really not crafting a generation to just go with it all and be there. We look at it like from our point of view. I fell in love with her because of how she looked, how she made me feel, what she did for me. And yes, I wanted to do all the things for her, but I was really loving myself. And whether we say it or not, we're really loving ourselves. It was sacrificial to a degree, but within 2 or 3 years of that, and saying we're fighting more, there's issues. And listen, she was awesome. She wanted to go everywhere. I went skating. I wasn't chasing people. We were just doing the life thing. Within 3 or 4 years, and here's the other thing for me, I'm passive aggressive. We're in the streets in Liverpool. Someone comes up, fight or flight. He starts shouting stuff at you. I'm like, bro, I'm right here. My thing, taught by my dad, someone's talking smack to you, you smack them right in the face. I don't care how tough they are. They never will do that to you again. Now I'm in my marriage and we're fighting and I'm not saying anything for so long and it's building up. Well, now you know what? I'm saying something stupid or I punched a hole in the wall or I'm off on a drive by myself or what the bleep and bleep? Why are we really and biblically? Anger's not a sin, but it's how you react. Someone came in here today and smacked one of your kids. You got up and punched them. In your anger, don't sin, but it's a reaction. So I'm coming out like that. She's coming out as the commander because her dad wasn't in her life so much, so she's rising up like her mom did. So you've got conflict, you've got issues. There's no real reason, just we were stubborn. And after saying we'll get divorced so much within so long, we're sitting in a lawyer's office, we're getting divorced, I'm moving into an apartment, like what are we doing? And I just felt like defeated because from the first moment of seeing that movie or watching that skate thing or seeing the magazine, the dream came true. And going out and getting those tricks, you either get them or you don't, but you get on. Now and I'll say this as a warning to people, you could be sitting there thinking about divorcing that person or being done with them. You can think all these things till it happens. It'll be so good once it's done. It'll be so good like this. I get it. There's crazy marriages. But we thought about it so much. Once you're divorced, you're like, oh, I can't think that way now because we are separated. So I'm fat on my face like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then these emotions hit. I'm not a depressed person, but I'm feeling like crazy. And I began to say, you know what? I don't know why I thought it. You know, England has a hyper fascination with like, Bigfoot, Ouija boards, Loch Ness Monster. We love the supernatural, not really God. He's just thrown out there with it. And I remember literally looking up and saying, you know what, God? And I don't know why I thought it. I'm going to prove there's no God, because if there's no God, you know what, Josh? Nothing matters. If the studio burned down, if the coffee burned me, if my marriage falls apart, you know, what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now, you know, pray for that nation. But if there's no God, we're just time plus chance plus matter. My divorce doesn't matter. But you know what? It feels like it does because it hurts. And here's my son, and what's going to be next? So I was in this just lost, confused place where I'd be listening to this going, okay, where's the answers? So,
So, you know, a lot of people don't realize this prior to getting married or when you get married, but it's like, you know, the honeymoon is fun. The dating before is so fun. And even in marriage before kids, you're figuring each other out, your roommates, you know, the whole thing's going on, and there's a lot of fun to be had. When kids show up, it needs to be talked about more. And thank you, Brian, for like taking time to like outline that, because there's so many, there really hundreds of details and tones that just came through. You're saying, a dad of three. I have 5, 3, and 1. So literally
a 1-year-old.
A 1-year-old. I've just literally experienced what you painted.
6 years.
So yes, I've been experiencing this. So
wow.
Something.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Something radically happens, you know, when your wife gets pregnant, like you said, instantly mother turns on, like dad has to catch up, like he's far behind, not understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you slowly start to see your own selfishness. You are shocked by your own selfishness. Like you just cannot believe who you are. And you honestly can't see that. I've heard people on podcasts, I can't remember who was doing that, but they were like, you know, any man who doesn't have a kid yet, like, I don't respect you until you have a child. Like, you have no clue. Like, you
haven't faced some stuff.
Yeah. And all you brothers who don't have kids yet, you know, I'm poking at you, but I'm not. You know, it's like,
I'll poke at you. You're just saying keep your kid quiet. You get my number and text me. You know, my buddy Josh Harmony, good friend of Josh Sisko.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, you know, he's a really good friend of mine. We love each other like that, like sold out Christian. Brian, how are so many people's kids so crazy? And he's like, why can't they just control them? Like 4 years later, he calls me, my kids are going crazy. What do you do? I go, this is kind of like how we are to God. I mean, God's looking at us like, you guys are all crazy. But you're saying what you got from that is just that generally there's real emotions. For you, that's a 6-year time.
It's real. We're still
your wife.
We're still in it right now.
And, you know, you've got to press in and you've got to realize the focus is to love on those kids, but it has to be in relating. The reason, I don't know where I heard it. Yes, I write about it in the book, but a relationship is relating. So when you're coming home and your wife dreamed of everything she's seen in the Disney movies and the romance films, and like, there's Josh and how he looks, you know, on the wedding day, and you put those photos and he's handsome and his waistline, he hasn't got the dot, you know, you don't have the dad bod. But I even heard someone say, if you don't have the dad bod, I don't respect you.
Hey!
Focus more on yourself.
I receive it. I receive it.
But I'm saying in all that, you've kind of got to go, you know, they're throwing spaghetti at you and they're turning the TV up and they're not listening. That's where you've got to be able to relate in the bad, because that's what it is. And then when you keep each other first, and it's hard, and I mean being physical. Some of the women need to hear your husband goes to work, gets chewed out, hates the drive, comes home. he's not romantic, but he needs these things in his system, or she just feels totally gross and lame, go flatter her. You know, like God brought one woman to Adam, and she's the standard of beauty. Whatever way your hair looked that day, whatever, you know, we're all going to age, things are going to fall out, you know, so.
Yes.
But anyway, there's a mess in that season, yeah,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, I call it the holy headlock. You know, it's like you basically get married and God has got you locked in, and like you will become holy. You will become like God. He will sculpt us, right? He will rub off the rough edges. He keeps me locked in this thing because I love my wife and I love my kids and I love the Lord, and I have to figure it out. I got to get on my face. I got to start begging God to show up. Or I'm just going to, you know, you can just continue being an idiot until you get your nose in the ground, and then.
Well, look at it like this. I walked in here today, meted with a smile from you on the curb. These gentlemen here, we're hanging out, we're having a laugh.
Yeah.
When you go home, you might have left the toilet seat up.
Right.
You might have left your smelly shoes somewhere.
Right.
You're coming home going, we knocked out this podcast, we got some books, you know, got Brian some coffee, we know each other. But that's as much as real as this is.
Yeah.
And let's get real. You know, would you marry yourself?
I don't like myself, Brian, to be honest.
Let's ask some people, would you marry yourself?
Dude, not
because
fun.
I always joke when I'm sharing on this, we were going to call this book Death by Marriage. And people laugh, but that's what Christianity is.
Right.
Less of me, more of him. I must decrease, he must increase. I mean, the Bible's the story of marriage. Genesis begins with one. Revelation ends with one. It's about a king called Jesus who came to defeat the serpent to redeem his bride. And what did Jesus do for his marriage? He died for it. So the hard thing in that is, as men, we need love from our wives. It's not good that man is alone, Genesis 2:18. As men, I forget who was preaching it, they said men don't just want sex, they need sex. We carry a seed. So it's almost like I'm in this struggle of, here's this woman and I've got a plan and I want to get the podcast done. I'm going to go home, see the kids. They're going to go baseball. We're going to do whatever. And I have this woman I want to pursue, and I want romance and passion. I want to be physical, and the world's just going. And it's not right that a man's sitting there like, where's my respect? It's not right for a woman to use sex, and it's weaponized in this culture. When I sit with couples and you've got the car analogy, there's 4 wheels. I want them to pray. I want them to provide. I want them to go to church. Well, what about being physical? And I only say that to help people understand you can't take any of these areas off. All these things are spiritual. That's how we've got to look at marriage. How are men and women made? And so in the midst of this season, it could be a season for you where like, wow, I'm so busy with work and my wife's so drained. But that's why it's a long journey, you know.
Yes. Yeah, and it is, with the Lord, it's not impossible. It is possible. And but it will not come without great testing, great trial, great fire, and it's made that way on purpose. Really,
fine as Romans 8:28, 29.
Yes.
Is God not patient with us? I mean, how many thoughts are you going to have today that you're like, Lord, you're really thinking this, or even when it's well intended, you know, or we're hyper cynical, we think we know everything, and we're still fallen dead creation, made in His image, but it's His righteousness, not ours. So,
amen.
yeah. So we were divorced. It was crazy.
So, but this non-believer is married 4 years, 5 years
for us,
Yes.
got married. I was 19. She was 21, and I think we probably got divorced within 2.5 years.
Got it.
So it's pretty crazy.
So this is, I mean, again, madly in love, like committed to each other, have a baby, circumstances of life, all the stuff starts coming out, and then you're like, forget this, we got to hang it up.
Yeah, and literally, they said the number one divorce state county is Orange County. 70 to 75% of marriages end in divorce. Yes, if you count Newport and the count of wealth.
Are you serious?
It's crazy.
What do they ascribe that to?
I haven't read all the reports, but it's just like
I thought it was the promised land.
Exactly. You know, it's all that glitters isn't gold. So for us, it wasn't that. My wife wasn't shallow, didn't want things. Even though we were making great money, we you know, I'm like the $9 T-shirt guy. I'll probably wear this. Anyone that tracks me, I probably wore this 600 times in the last like 3 months till it's gone. Yeah, it's like $40 nice warm top.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we're suddenly divorced, and I'm asking all those questions, but it is really normal. And for even both my sisters, you know, hey, why don't you guys get married? Well, it's just a piece of paper. Well, if it's just a piece of paper, why wouldn't someone do it? Because you're going in now and you're committed to this, and this is what you're doing. So we're divorced, and the thing that happens is we start I just start doubting everything. I start seeing the bad in marriage. Like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have more kids. The system's set up to tear men down. And in that, like I said, I mean, we've got plenty of time, but I begin to just, again, it's Bruce Lee. You know, if someone said, what did God use to give you a way of thinking? I was in a philosophy. Please hear this, people who just see me as the white pastor, you know, because I've heard that when everything got woke the last few years, you know, you're just a white pastor. I'm raised in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Most of my friends are Muslim, Pakistani, every kind of community.
Wow.
So I'm learning this whole idea from Bruce of like getting back to the truth. Well, okay, I'm divorced. Skating still doing great for the next 10 years. Still great money, still touring. I wasn't out chasing all these women craziness. But as I begin to look at all these faiths, I go, well, where's the truth? Either we evolved and we're apes and this is how it should look.
Right.
This is how, sadly, Israel and Hamas should look.
Right.
We're all just monkeys.
Yeah.
Monkeys do that to each other. But is there anything different? And I begin to look at all the Hinduism, Buddhism, the
Wow.
Eastern philosophy, because I don't really go into this as much. And believe me, I would. I'm writing a book on it now, kind of just letting my thoughts go. You have the sexual revolution. You have the Beatles come in. You have basically George Harrison changed the West. If you watch the history of the Beatles, he pretty much went over there, was stoked on all these kind of, you know, leaders and gurus, even though they flew in on helicopters and stuff. You know, if you watch the Beatles documentary on Apple, the 6-hour one, John Lennon is like, you don't think this is a bit weird? The dude's flying in a helicopter to sit with us and be like this guy.
Wow.
But that influence of the spiritual, the kind of Gnostic, the New Age, the deception that went out into the Middle East and all those places way back in the day to Asia, that's what you kind of catch in Liverpool, or the Rastafari, a little bit of the atheism, agnostic, but not really. So I begin to look at all these faiths. Okay, Buddha was a guy with a family like me, but he left his family and went and meditated. So he's just like, you know what, Josh, life's crazy. I don't want the coffee. I don't want the microphone. You care too much about a podcast or skating. I'm just going to meditate. So really, you're just like a deadbeat dad who didn't go honor your wife or your kids. You bail, and everyone's like, oh, it's so spiritual. No, it's not. It's the least spiritual thing. There's nothing in it that's a practice. The only thing that's spiritual is when it's happening and you live it out. Then you go to Rastafari. The Bible comes down the Nile. The Pibli. Yes, Haile Selassie people, real believers. But you have these variations. And then the Rasta lifestyle isn't what it really was. I'm reading all this, divorced, pretty much getting depressed and thinking we'd get in so many fights still being divorced. I'd think like, if I was in Texas, dude, I've never had a gun in my life. I probably would have killed myself back then.
Wow.
It was that level for a man where it gets that bad. And again, I'll say it, it's not good when man's alone. How is your marriage bad? If you came here today fighting with your wife, it doesn't feel good for you. If he said something to you, this gentleman said something to you, you can deal with that. Who's this guy to me? Even though you're best friends with your wife, it's like, that's something that's built in.
It's true.
It's of all that's going on, you're bail
one.
on your job for her. And that's because she's made to be his helpmate, his partner, cleft together, for cell structure in the Hebrew. So I'm doing all this, looking at all these faiths. I open Genesis one day, first day, get the Bible. I get History Channel DVDs. I start emailing priests and rabbis. I get in so many fights. I'm on probation. I have a baton in my car, like a billy club from like a martial arts shoot that I didn't know was illegal. I have all this trouble going on. And I open the Bible and it says right there, let us make man in our image. And I go, okay, God, if I'm made in your image, why does life suck? If I'm made in your image, why is the cancer? Why do things happen to kids? Again, why is this going on in Israel? Keep reading Genesis 2:3. You know it. You're raised in it. I never really put it together. God puts man in a garden and man sins. Just don't eat of this tree. They run over it like we would. They take photos with it. They post about it. They blog about it. They podcast about it. Look at the tree. Adam's office, he voids it. He bails on it. He gives it to Eve. Eve leads him. And now we have, in the day you eat, you'll surely die. Wait a minute, God. And I'm not a believer. My wife's not a believer. She's Catholic, Italian, Mexican. But I'm reading this like, wait, you're saying all the junk in this world is because we're fallen? I keep reading. Here's Abraham. God shows up to him through you. I'll bless the world, meaning a seed. Right there in Genesis that he's going to crush the head of the serpent. Who's this serpent? A talking snake? I mean, obviously snakes don't talk. No, it's some created being, serpent-like, reptilian-like, whatever you said, that was one way, and once he did this, was transformed somehow. You're seeing this, and then I get to Exodus 20. I read the 10 Commandments. I've heard of them. Guilty. Then this is what's funny. You know, my wife and I would come up here to all the vegan restaurants. Picture being a vegan and reading the Old Testament. So every year, because you guys are bad, we're going to take that innocent lamb that all vegans, Smiths and Morrissey, meat is murder. Wait, you're going to kill this lamb who just does nothing but is cute for my sin? I don't like this book either.
Right.
I start reading this. Okay, you're bad, Josh. So the high priest puts his hand on the scapegoat and it goes outside the city. Oh, wait, Pharaoh's opposing God, and here's these. I'm reading this. Listen, I'm getting into the Hebrew. I'm trying to disprove it. How do aliens fit in here? I'm full on like, this is not happening. 900 years of age. I mean, unicorns. Why is this word in here?
Wow.
Get to Genesis 6, and I'm like, wait a minute, ancient aliens. The scapegoat dies outside the city. It's sent out to take the nation's sin. You've got bloodshed by these animals. And then you've got the angel of death representing death and judgment and guilt coming down, and you put blood over the doorposts. I'm reading all this, and for you, a kid raised in the church, you're like, yeah. But even sometimes when I'm preaching it to the church and you can see they've never thought long term because they're just in there, then you get to the New Testament, those 400 years of silence. And John the Baptist shows up, who I believe was probably the high priest. I mean, his lineage. And it was the priest's job to say, behold the lamb. Just think about this. If you said to me, behold the lamb, I'd be like, John's crazy. That's a man.
Right.
How would we have known?
Right.
So then you have Jesus showing up as the lamb, the foreshadow. You have him die outside the city like the scapegoat. You have his blood being shed for the sins of the world. I'm reading all this. I'm harassing all these pastors. I'm challenging all my Rastafari friends. I was beginning to see who God was, but like they sang in that love song I'm referencing because of Calvary, many know him well, others just by name. I just knew him as a name. Still fighting, still making money, still divorced, still like not wanting to really be here. I was hearing all about God, but I had no clue really what a relationship is. And here's what it comes down to anyone listening, and to Joe Rogan, to any of those guys. If I could sit with him, you can't believe this until God opens your eyes. Like you joked earlier, like my podcast called Foolishness. The message of the cross is foolishness to those that are perishing. I was preaching one time and a guy came in and said, I don't believe this. And in the middle of service, I said, I know you don't. And he goes, I don't want to believe it. I said, I know you don't. And he didn't know what to say. And I said, in John 3, Nicodemus comes to Jesus. And I said this in the service. And I said, Nicodemus claims he can see, and Jesus says, you can't see this. The kingdom, lest you're born again. Spiritually dead, spiritually fighting, spiritually overliving. Your flesh is dead. You must be born again.
Yes.
Jesus telling Peter, who do they say that I am? Peter makes all these quotes. Flesh and blood didn't reveal this to you, Josh, but my Father in heaven. What that means is as we proclaim this truth, not just because we're loving, there's loving Muslims, loving atheists, loving wokeness. I get it. I'm using that just to say, guys, think about it. It's not Josh's love. It's not Brian's love. We need those things in word and deed, but the gospel is the power. And I was reading all this. I was seeing all this, again, Malachi to John. Your cousin Jesus is the Lamb. He was perfect. All your sins, all my struggles, everyone that's listening, whether it's Tony Hawk or I think Joe Rogan's going to come to faith because he's around Eddie Bravo, who I know has gone down the flat earth Genesis 6 route. And my friends are good friends with him, the Jesus conversation. I think the Lord could raise up these Dariuses, and these kind of kings and pioneers to like the Jordan Petersons and even Russell Brand, like just make it more about Jesus, not about God.
Yes.
So I'm in this realm where, look, I'm in the magazines, the videos, I'm everywhere, and I'm not this dark person, but like, again, fight or flight. Reading all this, and you know what's amazing? I'll say it because we just got time. As I'm doing community service, they give you this like 200 sheet list of like, where do you want to do it? And so I go through this whole list and I'm looking, I'm like, I don't want to stand on the freeway. I don't want to do this. The last thing says Christian thrift store. And I'm like, thrift store? They make cool button-ups and like Dickies, and I can just go in there. And so I go to this Christian thrift store in Tustin, which you're familiar with, being down Orange County. I walk in and Hank Williams, I'd never heard this song, I Saw the Light. I walk in and the guy working says, hey, if you read this book, I'll give you more credit. It was a church thrift store.
Whoa.
I'm around all these Christians. The book he gave me, one was Purpose-Driven Life. It was More Than a Carpenter.
Yes.
And Case for Christ.
Wow.
So I just start reading these books, and I have this and it was actually like 7 months for me because I would travel still. And it was just to say, don't jump over fences in schools and don't get in fights and don't do whatever. But as I'm reading this, I'm around Christians and I'm seeing Some who are kind of just like, well, if it's not real, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Then I'm around pastors and I'm in the church serving burgers and fries because you get extra hours.
Crazy.
So I'm reading all this, fighting with my ex-wife, saying, is this real or not? But I didn't know Jesus. So like Nicodemus didn't know. I preached at a college recently and there was a load of atheists, and I gave that same idea, like the gospel's the power. I was hearing about God, knowing about Jesus, but I didn't know him. And I didn't realize that, like, I had that Simpsons mentality. You pick a religion in the end of your life, you go up the escalator like Homer, and I know the gates are there, and I guess that's not Christianity. Christianity is the moment you believe, your eyes are open, you're never the same. Look, I wanted to go to philosophy school. I love martial arts. I had every Bruce Lee thing. I was obsessed with skating. Bought a house, separated from my wife still. Hey, babe, let's just try and make this work for the sake of our son. Because I figured, and here's the sad part, which doesn't even sound sad because I have Christ, so who cares? I don't even have that same reaction. I figured I'll just make this work. And when my son's old enough, he'll at least know I loved him. And then if I did take my life, I wasn't here. At least he knew I made the effort for him, which is so sad to think.
Right.
I was reading all this, hearing all this. I heard a pastor preach Matthew 7:21, that there's some who say they follow or even do things in his name, but many will come, Lord, Lord. And then I read Galatians 5 about the flesh and the spirit. And coming home that night, I've been buying a house, walking into the house, huge fight with my ex-wife. She goes to bed. My son's in our bed. And I go in the office and I get down on my face. And then the OCD kicks in because skaters have OCD. And I remember saying, Lord, and I remember being so angry, and I said, God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, because I want God to be listening, I needed to make sure I said his name right. And then I even said, like, Yahweh, the tetragrammaton.
Yes.
And I said, God, and as I was about to say all this stuff, it's like the Lord said, you've been coming to me for the wrong reasons. I was going to God to fix my life, make it make sense, make it look perfect, the white picket fence. But my issue was sin. And I know for the last 20 years we got away from talking about sin, like, I didn't know what sin was. I know what repentance was. Right. I wasn't raised in Israel. I wasn't a first century Jew. This is not, you say repent, I don't know what that means. But I'd heard all those verses, all of sin fallen short of the glory of God. The wages of sin is death. Wait a minute. Because of my one lie, we can go Ray Comfort for a moment. Because of my one lustful thought, any of us, James 2:10 says if we've sinned in one place, we're guilty of it all. There's me, dead in sin, body aging, bruised from skating, divorced. What do you think life's going to be like? I'm eating of the fruit every day, whatever that was, the three things Eve saw that we read Jesus was tempted with, that John talks about. So there's me separated, divorced still, going into that room. And I remember just realizing, whoa, like my eyes were open in September 2004 and sitting there in my office, I was about to give this whole plea to God, and it was like, no. And I was like, Lord, I repent. And I was like, Lord, I confess. And I begin to laugh and cry. In jiu-jitsu, when a technique's good, I laugh. But if you're preaching and you say the heavy stuff that's like, oh, man, I start laughing. And I start laughing like, oh, my gosh. And I know in an instant, this is the only way I can explain it. It's like I knew there was a presence there that was opening my eyes, and I knew I was being forgiven, and I knew that, and everything I thought about Bruce Lee and philosophy and all these other religions disappeared.
Wow.
And I was like, and I said, I can't believe no one's told me. And I started freaking out, laughing and crying. I said, Lord, I give you my skating, give you my life, get baptized. I'll remarry this woman, whatever you want. Laughing and crying for 40 minutes, thinking about my sisters not knowing the Lord, thinking about people not knowing. Go in the other room and lay down, and I'm quiet. And I'm a talker, we're English. We interact with people like almost like Jews, where they kind of banter more.
Right.
Older Jews, I'm talking about rabbinic.
Yeah.
I'm in bed, and she sits up and gives this speech about all this stuff I just said for like a few minutes, but doesn't know. She's like, eyes closed. I don't say one word. The next morning I wake up like, I'm going to follow Jesus. And she's like, you're crazy. You're not Catholic. She literally will say, I thought there was two people going to hell, Brian and Hitler. So she's like, you're nuts. She's Italian. She's got like the little things and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm following the Lord. And for the next 3 weeks, that was it. And she was tripping like, what has happened to him? She goes to church. The pastor calls her out, guest speaker, never been there. She went saying, I will not go down to the front, but whatever happened to Brian, God, because she lived in the East Coast. She's this straight edge kid, hardcore straight edge. I don't mean like the 2000s, like trendy. I mean, the OG. She knew all those people. So they're getting all into their Buddhism and all their kind of like, the Krishna and stuff. And she always felt convicted, like, why am I around this? She felt guilty flying home on a plane one day, like, I'm trusting in all these chants, but I'm a Catholic. And so she's questioning her faith. She hears that song, I Can Only Imagine, in the church.
Wow.
And she gets tears when she thinks about it today. And she literally is like, what do I imagine? Like, can I imagine? And God, like, does this work. The pastor says, super specifically, tells this girl she needs to come to faith today. He'd never been to the church. There's 400 people. She goes down. Anyway, come to faith. Within 3 months, we're remarried. We have 2 more children. And immediately I was just like, Lord, whatever you want to do. And, my son's 23, just got back from Mallorca, youth pastor, has his own business. I did their wedding. My daughter, Eden Avery's 16,
Awesome.
Wild, crazy, cool teenager.
Yeah.
And then my son, Jude Micah. So really, it's like, even the skate thing, I'm like, it's so foreign at times. And people, when I came to faith, well, you'll probably dig into this in a minute, but what are you doing with your career and your life? It was like the Lord just got a hold, and it's like the fisherman in the boat, Matthew 4. Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men. My sheep hear my voice. I was like, okay, Lord. So, that's what, I think I've been married 23 years almost now, and
Praise
in America
God.
27. And
Praise
so,
God.
yeah. And you get a little bit teary-eyed there, huh? If they can't see.
The grace is amazing, man. Grace moves, man. It's like, I love your synopsis of the Old Testament to the New. I love, marriage is real.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, in the public eye. It doesn't matter what. When you get home, like, that's the real place, right? Your kids know who you are. Your wife knows who you are. And so, to go from non-believing to believing, and Christ showing up in your life in a powerful way, dropping the nets and saying, I'm gonna follow you, like, whatever you want. And then your wife coming to faith, and then you guys getting remarried, praise God.
Yeah.
And now on this side, like, looking back and saying, look what the Lord has done. It's like, dude, like, praise God. I mean, this is such a powerful testimony. And I love that you didn't grow up in the church. I love that you're around atheists and Muslims and, just skaters, and like, you're like, forget this. I'm going to figure out all the religions of the world. I'm just going to dig into this thing, and like, I'm going to parse this thing out myself. I wanted to ask, like, where'd you get that Bible? Like, where'd you find that thing?
It's so crazy. It's funny. I don't know. It's almost like if I was in heavily Pentecostal churches, I would say this so much more. I don't know why I don't talk about these things as much. I'm walking from my house to downtown Huntington, and I'm walking, and I'm like, I don't have a Bible. I don't have a Bible. And here's what's crazy. This is funny. At this time, I'm watching these things, and you definitely know what this is, your generation. There's a YouTube series called They Sold Their Souls from Rock and Roll, and it's the guy with the mustache, and he's like, let me tell you about AC/DC, what the Beatles, did you know, Sgt. Pepper, Aleister Crowley. So I'm watching this crazy, and I'll frame it right for like your sound clips, but I'm watching this crazy series of 10 YouTube videos, but my buddy had given me a video of it. So I'm like the third night in, I'm watching it, on the couch. I don't know that I'm a believer yet. I don't think I am yet, because I haven't gone into the word yet. I'm just like, what is this? Music can influence, and Led Zeppelin, and you hear all these things. As I'm watching it, I'm on the Led Zeppelin part where they buy Aleister Crowley's house and they write things in reverse, and Sozo, and how Satan was supposedly, the lead worshiper, and all the rest of it. I'm watching this, and I'm the third day in. My parents are in town. We have a small 3-bedroom house, so they're staying with us. They're in one room. My wife and kids are in the other. I'm sleeping on the couch, and I get a phone call from a skater friend of mine who's like a known musician now, Matt Costa, and he's a skate kid who breaks his leg, and so he starts playing guitar. And he just is amazing at it. And he comes over to the house one day, and he plays this song like Eyes for You, and me and my wife, because we're I'm from Liverpool, so I can kind of be like a music critic. I know some stuff about music, but I'm useless. But she is like die-hard music, so we're both like, this is shocking. He calls me, and it's probably the second time in his life that he's like called me, that I just skate with him. Brian, what are you doing? It's 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, nothing, I'm just hanging on the couch. What's up? And he's the most normal guy. Like if you like hire him, just based on you asking about him, hire him. He's amazing. He's trying to talk to me for 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, like, what's he trying to tell me? Is he struggling with drugs? Did someone die? Is something happening to him? Back then I'm like, is he trying to come out about something? I don't know. Dude, why don't you just come over? Okay, I'll be there in a minute. I'm like, what? shows up at my house, comes in the house, sits down on my couch. I have a photo in my phone, but there's 5,000 pics. I won't go there for now. But of him on the couch, sitting on my couch, I go, Matt, what's going on? I've been playing the music and things have been going good. And it's paused on my big cheesy flat screen. It's paused on the Led Zeppelin part. He has no idea I'm watching. And I'm looking at him and the TV's here. And he goes, I'm just going to say it. I feel like Satan's talking to me. And I go like this. And this is on record, I go like this. I go, Satan?
Crazy.
And I go back to that. I've just been reading the John 3 part. What do you mean, Satan? How do you know it's Satan? He goes, Brian, I've been playing music. I did a couple of shows. The guy from No Doubt, guitarist or bassist, has hit me up, wants to manage me. And I go, what do you mean, Satan? He goes, well, I have this girl who runs all my stuff, and she calls me. And as we get on the phone, I feel like her voice changes. And I go, what do you mean? And I go, what's she saying? And he goes, it doesn't sound like it's her, but it sounds like it's a voice. And I go, how do you know it's Satan? He goes, I just feel like I know.
Crazy.
And I go, what's he saying? He's saying, well, I can take your music to the next level. This is happening. You're telling me this. If you're Matt, he's a good friend of mine, love him. And this is paused on the TV.
Yeah.
This is real. Either I'm crazy or you listeners, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So this is all happening. And as this is happening, I'm like, can I just show you something? So I play the Led Zeppelin part. Okay, he trips out. Can I stay at your house tonight? He's probably like 23. The photo of me is him waking up on a leather couch, because in England you always have leather couches, so I kind of kept that idea.
Yeah.
My dad came in the morning with pens and was banging on the thing to wake us up. The photo is him on the couch, like sweaty, so freaked out, never stayed at my house before. But the reason I'm saying that is I had this random Bible, and as I'm walking the next day, I'm like, Lord, I need a Bible. I need my own Bible. I walk by a park, and sitting on the desk is a $50 wrapped in film, New Living Translation, just sitting on the edge of a bench right here. And I walk up to the park where my kids have all their parties and stuff. This is before I have all the kids. Obviously, I have my son. And I pick it up and I'm like, are you serious? And that's the Bible that I
just sitting there.
Sitting there. That's the Bible that I underlined. Nephilim and Methuselah's age, unicorns, everything. And the crazy thing is, so this was my Bible. So I get that. I'm going through it. The crazy thing is the next morning, Matt gets a phone call from Jack Johnson to be his full-time manager.
Wow.
And his music's in, Curious George, his music's in Apple commercials. It blew up.
Wow.
And then what's funny is years later when I made this kind of Christian film, he was like, I want to write some hymns and do it. So, but here's the thing. In my life, someone out of the blue that's not a believer felt like they knew it was Satan. And that was like a supernatural thing, like God showing me, like, hey, this is real. I'm not saying everything like I said in the video, but Satan, if we can encounter angels unawares, like you don't see angels with wings and all this stuff when they're walking among people. You see them as messengers. Around the throne, sure they are.
Sure.
But when they're among people, they want to sleep with them. We'll inhabit them. So that also means that fallen angels could show up in ways that we wouldn't know. And if I'm Satan and I'm trying to mess with this world, 2 Corinthians 4:4, and my whole agenda, am I not going to be doing a work in LA and in New York and, Michael Heiser, the late, and his whole thing of the spiritual realm?
Sure.
Is Satan not at work? He's not sitting here like, oh man, Josh and Brian are doing this podcast. Okay. He hates everything. He hates everything about God. He's opposed to everything. He knows he's going to lose. So my point is he not going to use music and the industry and whether you go into the occult and especially what you must hear from being out here?
Right.
He's going to use all that.
Right.
You see more of the Bible lived out in the occult in American Hollywood culture and lifestyle than you do of regular Christianity. And it's fine. The all-seeing eye, the triangle, the capstone, we can go there. Satan illuminated them. But I'm just saying, where did my Bible come from? I was walking to downtown and it was sitting on a bench. And
Crazy.
I haven't said, can I have the newest model, Ford, whatever, to update my Explorer model.
Yeah.
But I'm not asking God for things like that, but he gave me a Bible.
Unreal, man.
And I'll tell you something else. My buddy, John Goldman, who's not a believer, we were in San Francisco not 6 months later at a very famous skate spot. And he's like, I don't even have a Bible. And I said, I'm going to pray you get a Bible. And on my life, my kid's life, we walk up to this skate spot, a very famous skate spot where Mike Carroll skated. And there's a Bible wrapped in film, a brown one, sitting on the trash can. And I'm like, and you know what I did? This is funny. On that trip, I said, I'll pay for us to go see the movies. So I paid for him and two of my other friends to go watch The Passion of the Christ.
Wow.
And they didn't, but they're not believers. So they're sitting there like, Okay, and you know what I would do? This is funny. We'd be on skate tour, and it'd be late night, and they'd all be, gambling with cards or
Yeah.
getting stoned or doing whatever, getting pizza, and we'd be falling asleep. And so we wake up in this hotel room, and I'd go through the channels, and I'd find like John Hagee or someone, and I'd leave it on. And look, they'd wake up in the morning, they'd be like, dude, I woke up and this guy's got these poster boards of Revelation,
Yeah.
or he's talking about Israel. And I'm like, I think about the things I did. It was just funny. So
That's
that was
awesome.
kind of it. So I got the Bible, tore it to bits, still have it. I just got it out of the garage the other day to go through and read all the pink. But yeah,
Dude, Brian, like
crazy.
So
I haven't shared this much in a while.
no, but
Yeah.
dude, I mean, wow, we've never met.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm like, you're, I don't know, you know, I don't know if listener is realizing this, but it's like you're able to pull from like, I don't know, like 100 different areas at one time. Like like where did this come from? Like, do you get
In what?
I don't know. Like you're able to communicate and speak in a way that is able to hit a very eclectic group, you know, because you're pulling references, you know, it's like from the Bible, then from culture, then from like, yeah, that specific group, then like that funny angle, then that like you know, like communicators, if you're an orator, like you can see what Brian's in. It's really fascinating but I mean, obviously God's gifted you with this, but it's like it's really incredible. Where have you traced that back, like in your life, how God like built that into you, or where this came from? Have you just had like hundreds of different friends and you've pulled from so many people? Like where did this come from? Like
Like self-analyze.
yeah, this ability, man. It's
Well, I think, you know what? It's funny, like when I preach, like I'm really serious. Like it's almost like today's the day, which it is. It's almost like can be fire and brimstone, like probably because of guys like Leonard Ravenhill, you know, or like Paul Washer, or people where Paul looked up to Ravenhill, or even Keith Green's songs.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm doing is and I realize it now, and I've always been this way. I'm making a statement that I'm qualifying it. And the qualification of it is why it's real. So it's very factual. So when I used to, you know, fight with my wife, she'd be like, oh, you be the worst lawyer.
Yeah.
Everything they say. So it's almost like the skater that's hyper cynical.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, hey, do that again, but don't put your hand down, or do this or do that, which I had to release a lot of that when I became a believer. But I think if I was honest, I think it's what you see in the Apostle Paul, and you see in in Ephesians 4, apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist. I mean, believe me, when I'm talking to you, you're so gracious and open like this. But if I'm talking to someone that, especially Americans, you don't realize this, right? And see how I just did it?
Yeah.
You Americans, and then I'm about to qualify it.
Sure.
25 years ago, our picture of Americans was, you're talking to them and they're just like, yeah. Okay. It's very statement. You read books and back then, very statement. English humor came in, and Americans now are as fast with everything, like the dry humor. Listen to your kids, they'll be so fast.
Right.
It's that dry wit. If I'm talking to people who are just like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, they probably shouldn't ask me, because I'm going to give you a theological download of all these things.
Sure.
But I'm intentionally mentioning Hollywood and culture and you know all this because I know listeners are fascinated. When I go to a skate park, they want to talk about who's Pharrell talking to when he talks about God. What is the black and white? What do you think about this? And then it goes back to the Bible. So I try and qualify it with the word, speak about it. And believe me, when I'm preaching, I have notes. So I want to get, like if you said, come preach on this, that's what I want to do. But speaking to youth and questions after conferences and that, I just feel like Paul in Acts 17, he went in and he knew about the unknown God, and he qualified what they were, and he filled it in. And I think maybe that's the evangelist part of us. That's why I look at people who are kind of all over the place. Like my son, my youngest, people go, oh man, he's so ADD. And I go, maybe he just juggles a lot of thoughts at once.
Yes.
And when he aims it at something, God, because the gift's inside of you.
Yeah.
You don't get the gift. God gave you the gift.
Yes.
So, and it's a podcast and we're goofing off. And I mean, I'm thinking, well, man, there's things that are relevant. And so,
No, I think it's a beautiful gift, man. I think you use it at the highest level, because I'm like, I'm fascinated, you know, and I'm encouraged. Like I don't know, just the ability to communicate on that level, and it just, I don't know. The sky's the limit when you're able to pull like that.
Unless they're taking notes and they're like, go back to that one verse in John 3, which normally when I preach, you'll get 65 things out of that verse.
Yes.
Because God has hidden so many things for us that are just, I'm like you, I'll be preaching through stuff and I'll be in tears. Like, even the John being the high priest, like, I was preaching on Melchizedek that our church gave me. And you've got John's dad, Zachariah, and his lineage, Abijah. You've got the mom and the Aaronic line. You've got these two coming together and a prophecy given by an angel to name him who he is. He disappears for 20 years like he's out in the wilderness, setting himself apart like a priest. And then you have the two priests who are set apart by Rome. Yes, they're the priests. But I think John was the last of the Aaronic line because he says, I must decrease, he must increase. When he says, behold the Lamb of God, Jesus didn't get baptized just for sin, you'd say, because he never had sin. He would take it upon himself, but he got set apart as the Lamb of God. But then John was handing the Old Testament Aaronic priesthood onto the Melchizedek king, and I'm just looking at this when I'm studying it one day, and I start looking at what rabbis say who become believers, and they're like, yeah, this is who we think John is, because John was the priest. And then when you see it's passed on to Melchizedek, I'm like in tears, like, God, whether I'm completely accurate or not with this, who his dad was, what was going on. And to unbelievers, you just don't get like the beauty of how God, even you just saying that God's so gracious, like he allowed me to see someone with this influence of this dark voice. And then, for my friend Matt. And so like, it's crazy. So,
You're a pastor. You were a pastor.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm a pastor, you mean now?
You're a pastor.
Well, I mean, I've always been pastoral, and I just care for people. There's a conviction.
But when you have stepped into churches and been a pastor there on staff at church, how did that happen? Pro skater to pastor.
You know what's funny is I don't know that anyone's really asked that specifically. So, okay, I'm in the magazines. I'm riding for Tony Hawk. I'm in all these videos. This is a good question, honestly. Then right around this time, which you'd remember, you've got like Stephen Baldwin and Brian Welch coming to faith, and a couple of people and you've got, maybe even TBN had like a side thing that was aimed at the youth. I mean, you might have been involved in seeing all that back then. Everyone had their spiky hair and whatever. But they just said, here's this dude who's a skater that rides for Tony Hawk. Have him come share a story. So I'm like, what? I didn't know to drink water then. I didn't know to process it. I would just go on stage and be like, here's what God did, which all I really knew was what I read in the Old Testament to the New. So it was actually just the gospel, which kind of let me dodge a lot of the other stuff we're trying to add to it, new methodology and stuff, which is fine, but it was the gospel. I start doing this. I came to faith at a church where Jay Hazlip was the pastor and Christian Osoy was going. He'd been in prison, came to faith, heard what I was going through. HB back then, the sanctuary.
Got it.
So that was a lot of people who were addicts per se, a recovery church in a way, but they were just zealous. So that's all going on. And as I'm just living this out, people like Brian, all you talk about is the Bible, and I don't remember people's names, but I remember what they told me, what they're going through, and I can remember like how they felt. It's weird, like pastorally, and through that, and answering a million questions on tour and that, I just started getting like grounded, and then I started getting invited to youth groups, and I was super nervous. I'd have 9 pages of notes, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. You know?
It's like skater met theologian, like kind of, or blue collar theologian, basically. And this starts to,
and people ask those questions. I want to give answers, and it was the question I asked. So it's almost like an apologetic. It really was, because what's the truth in it?
Yeah.
And as that happens, I was at the sanctuary and I would jump in and preach. And what's funny is I would preach like almost line by line, more like a Calvary style.
Yeah.
And that was like a Word of Faith church. Katy Perry's parents would come speak there. Speak in tongues, translate.
Wow.
A lot of very prophetic people. They had Rodney Howard-Brown speak there. And there was a great community focused on the Lord. And then when I transitioned out of there, I went to Rock Harbor, which was almost like a little bit more open. I feel like the Calvary kids who kind of bailed on Calvary maybe went there because they're like, here's all the cute folks.
I remember when it blew up. It was massive.
And because you have Mike Erie talking about the sex series and the rest, but what that did was you had a lead pastor that had fell. Todd Proctor stepped in, who's a great connector. And then it kind of left that like from Rob Bell to like where the progressive move went, and all these young pastors wrote books of like, here's a bunch of thoughts I'm thinking. a younger generation took it and said, hey, maybe the church missed it. Here's what we all think. And everyone jumped on that for a while. And so you kind of had like a 20-year season of like, are they called churches or campuses? And they'd say things, like this isn't a church like your grandparents' church. Right. And then you had the Mark Driscoll, the opposite thing that rose up to balance it.
Right.
And Rock Harbor was always great because they were grounded and focused on loving people, the gospel. But for me as like this evangelist, it began to rise up in me like, people would ask me, what's the vision for the church? And I'm looking to jump into that for a second, but I'm saying in all of that, I'd get invited to speak, and I'd noticed that a lot of Christians would kind of pull back when I'd be so gung-ho because I didn't understand why the gospel was a bad word or preaching about sin was bad or all this stuff. So it made me like, are they not reading that, Matthew 3, John the Baptist came preaching. Yeah, what did he preach? Repent, for the kingdom's at hand.
Right.
John dies, Matthew 4:17. From that time on, Jesus began to preach. What did he preach? Repent. That Jesus' ministry was 3.5 years, and from the moment he's anointed, he begins to go and proclaim. We read in Luke 4 in the synagogue, this is what I'm doing. This is why the Spirit's on me. As he goes and proclaims, and this is just worth saying, he preached to sinners. He does, and he loves us all, but he proclaimed to people, to the woman caught in the act of adultery, go and sin no more. She probably struggled with sin in areas, but she didn't live in that lifestyle.
Right.
The prostitutes didn't continue in prostitution.
Right.
And automatically with that, we jump to another relevant issue. Well, you're just saying this. No, I'm not. I'm just saying, look at the text. The tax collectors paid back fourfold. So even the Beatitudes has been the most abused verse to me. Every kind of president's used it. He's not talking about poor people. He's talking about the poor in spirit. He's talking to his disciples. Beatitudes 5, 6, and 7. How does he end that? He proclaims the truth. He proclaims the kingdom. He's inviting you. Do not hear what you might be hearing. Here's the king. He's there. Come to the banquet. You're welcome. But guys, as I'm sending you out, as I'm calling you to die to self, live for me, take up your cross, follow the rabbi. I mean, he's a real rabbi. Peter, James, and John, there's his three who would take his teaching, follow the dust of the rabbi. You know all those terms. At the end of it, he says, many will call me Lord, Lord. He's telling us all on this beautiful hillside, guys, yes, go to the poor in spirit, those who hunger and thirst. It's those who want. It's those who are pursuing. It's those the Lord's drawing. I'm saying all that in that season in me, I was like, it just became evident I was focused on evangelism. And so the Stephen Baldwins, things of Brian Welch, even all the TBN stuff, they just wanted you to be on there proclaiming the truth. So it got me. How do you study? How do you read? How do you present? And our old church was like, well, just get alone with God and pray and he'll give you stuff. So I was like, well, then I'm like, okay, I get it. He gives you a nugget or direction of where you're going. The Spirit's leading, but he's already given us, and we talked about John MacArthur.
Sure.
He's already given us the best sermons in his word.
Yeah.
Paul told Timothy, till I arrive, give attention to reading, exhortation, doctrine. Not just to be a theologian.
Right.
If what's going on in Israel, let's say we all missed our time scale and suddenly it was in a week. My studying theology all week could be one thing, but my proclaiming the gospel every day is the thing.
Yes.
The gospel, and I'm doing the Bible project thing right now. I'm just going through it as I'm listening, So here's a way to think about it. It's all about theology, but you could master the whole of the Bible and say it's all the gospel, but what did Jesus, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, when he sat with you, tell you to do? He sent out them in twos. He sent out 70. Then we see that he died, resurrected, and said, go. Our life is going with the Spirit of God. So in all of that, I felt this nudge like I've got to get focused on evangelism and the church focused on evangelism. So to say, how did I become a pastor? When we became branches out of Rock Harbor, because Rock Harbor kind of all split, like they did their own thing the same time Calvary did.
Yes.
Which was just, I think it was a good thing because you have elders who've been there for years and they're set in their ways. And even when I first got there, one of the leaders says, Brian, I don't know that we've ever had someone who's super focused on evangelism. Like we have people who can talk about, rhythms and patterns and methods. And so you and me have our prayer time every Saturday, or we do this. But the book of Acts is we're going. Josh, I'm praying for you because you actually might die. I'm praying for these gentlemen because of what's going to happen. We're not waiting on the Spirit. He's waiting on us. He's already going. He's empowered us. So that's how I look at the immediacy of it, the fivefold ministry evangelist. And so as far as pastoring, I love people. I want to proclaim. If you said, I want you to preach this Sunday, I'm like, unless God says no, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Because he has to meet me there.
Yes.
And that's as much as, pastor, evangelist, teacher, whatever. But yeah, I don't I'm saying a lot, but I don't think about it. I'm like, if you want me in the pulpit, then God must. But
Yes.
as long as I spend the time with, he'll show up and
Yeah.
give them whatever. And you know, being a pastor, maybe your listeners don't. It's a craft.
Yeah.
If you know you're preaching this weekend, which are you?
Yes, I am.
So you've already got your outline, your notes,
Yeah.
you're open to the Spirit, your conversations with me, you might pull things from that.
Totally.
The Lord will push things in there, and then it's like,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ministry, the pulpit, loving the people, feeding the sheep. Not easy, man. Not easy. It's interesting when I think through your journey, it almost seems like God, people ask me like, how do you become a pastor? Or how did you become a pastor? And I'm like, I didn't exactly like grow up dreaming of being a pastor. I never did. Like I basically I feel like God roped me into it. Like I felt like I started working with the high school kids.
Yeah.
And I just loved, turning them to Christ and then
Pointing the way.
Yeah. And then, slowly like then I start teaching the word and then like people want to listen and then like you feel responsibility, you feel burden, and then you're like, oh no, I think I have to do this. And before you know, you get roped in. It almost sounds like this slow, like God basically like massaged you like into this thing, and like you wake up one day, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm kind of too deep into this thing now
Paul
to just
said I'm
bail on it.
compelled.
Yes.
Paul, and Spurgeon says, if you can do anything else, do it.
Wow.
And I did hear someone on a podcast really say, hey, I get the idea, but no. But I'm like, in Acts, you see that they had others wait the tables. They could focus on prayer and the word. And for you, if you were so busy, you wouldn't do a podcast because you'd choose preaching on Sunday over that. So it is kind of like, it's a call, it's an office. And I guess the thing for me is what I've seen and what I've looked at over time is that 85% of the church, they say, is focused on discipleship, which is a good thing. But only 15% on evangelism.
Wow.
So I've had times people have come into town and say, hey, how do we get the church fired up? Well, I go, who's the evangelist in your church? I mean, if he gives apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist to help equip the saints, like if you said, Brian, come speak at our church, the week you come up after me, you can just say, yeah, Brian, push the gas on evangelism, and here's as a pastor what I'm trying to catch out of that for the community. And that's as practical as it is. And, you're probably familiar with John Bevere. He was more in that circle. I say it so much, but he said there's nothing worse than seeing a man operate in another man's gift. I think God has to massage that. So if we're best friends, you're like, well, Brian bends more this way. In a meeting, you're going to let me get all that energy out because and then you're going to craft it as the pastor.
Yes.
And you can look at it like this. Why is there so much division in the body of Christ? Well, because all the teachers are sitting back saying everything must be like this in their own community. And then all the prophetic people are flapping around on the floor trying to get people who might not be as prophetic, trying to be prophetic.
Right.
And then all the evangelists are like, you better go.
Right.
And then whatever you want to do with the apostle or capital A apostle, I'll leave that. I've heard the schools of, I know what that all means, so I won't touch on that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I'm kidding, guys, I will. But I'm saying it's almost like if I was a part of your community.
Yeah.
And I had a adjunct professor from Biola on my podcast recently, and I said, how do you do that? How do you be so cynical because you've heard every bit of the Hebrew and we don't have it all together completely, like we only know in part. How do you go into a service and then there's Pastor Josh, if you hadn't had the training you had, but you're still loving people shepherding? And he goes, that's an amazing question because you have to realize what is God doing in that shepherd? What is God doing in that community in Africa where my friends go serve when they've been Christians for 2 months? There's no one else for 100 miles who has a Bible and they just start pastoring. It's the love, it's the pursuit of truth, it's the shepherding people.
Yes.
God will honor that.
Yes.
And that should give grace to pastors to say, hey, so if I go to your church, where's this church and what's God needing him to be focused on? And then at times you might have I think the other thing too that's dangerous is a lot of theologians, and I'm saying this a lot lately, they're writing 600-page books about something that might be or might not be relevant, and they're kind of creating more drama than focusing on the gospel. And if you're listening saying, what do you mean? Guys, this is the whole of my message. Jesus' ministry was 3.5 years. Follow, and I'll make you fishers of men. When they came to him and said, what's your message? What's the greatest commandment? He did what all teachers, what all fishers of men would do, what all who proclaim. Love the Lord your God with heart, soul, mind. That's following. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's fishing. His message was looking to the Father and fishing. For 3.5 years, Josh, what did he do? You could preach a service right now. If I said, talk about Jesus' ministry for only 3.5 years, you could do it no problem. It sounds crazy, but you say, He raised the dead, cast out demons, opened eyes, opened ears, opened hearts. He did all that. His fishermen followed him, tax collectors and the rest. And what did he do at the end? He died and rose again and gave the same message. All authority is given to me. Go into all the world. What is the whole of it? It's focused on going. So when you're the gnarliest theologian, does that 600-page book that gives you glory on the earth, on his view on the atonement, are you maybe wasting your time for 2.5 years doing that? Or can you just live the gospel today? I think it's way more simple than we.
Yeah. I think what's sad is people, come to the church and then they grow in the church and they get discipled in the church and they grow into leadership and then they grow full of great knowledge and wisdom, and then they get trapped in the church, and then we got the superheroes or the supermen of Christianity trapped inside the walls, and they're not actually on the outside. The ones who should be running into the crowds and
like Paul did.
Can have the conversations, can answer all the questions. The ones training the Christians are the ones most of the time trapped inside the walls. They're not talking to any non-believers. And it's really sad because it's I'll be honest, confess, it's happened to me too. I'm so
everything
busy.
we're saying can happen to us in any sense. We're not saying we're holier than thou.
You get so busy with doing ministry, taking care of the sheep and preparing sermons and doing all of these administrative stuff and all the tasks and all the things on the inside and doing podcasts. And then you find yourself not reaching into the world, not going. Go therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptize them, and then teach them to observe all I commanded you. Like Christ has been very clear about this, but
that's that's the only thing you never have to ask him about what you should do with your life. I shared at a men's ministry of the week. Pray about where you should live. Pray about the name of the podcast. Pray about the name of a book. You never have to ask, am I meant to go? And even when Paul is stopped by the Spirit, someone said, well, why does the Spirit tell us not to go? No, he told them not to go there. But to say this for you, for Grace, Josh, and for pastors, if you're my pastor, you know what? I need you to do what you're doing. I need to know on a Monday he's off with his family, downtime, and maybe he's romantic with his wife and they're going on a date or whatever. And you know what? Tuesday, you're hearing some of the fluff through the week. You're helping the team. You're equipped for a reason. You might not be in the streets as much as the evangelistic people in your church, but that's why God wants some of that leaning in. You might sit in a prophetic prayer time where there's 3 people on staff that just kind of encourage. So it's not to bash on pastors, but I'm saying a pastor's time generally is prepping and then 2 times a week maybe in the pulpit, but that's his office. Where your conviction is, because you are a pastor, as you're hearing, listen to Brian the Evangelist, because I was on Lisa Childer's podcast, so I did something with her, and she's all about apologetics. And after we got off, she's like, Brian, I was so convicted by but I'm like, that's because I'm an evangelist. It's a going ministry. That's why when I listen to, a theologian, I'm like, I want to hear this. I'll say this though, because you made a good point and we can jump in there if you want. I had my buddy Diego, who you might have met. He's good friends with Josh Sisko, Andrew Similar. And he went over to Hillsong years ago as a little surf kid, became best friends with all of them, came back. He planted in Newport, the Newport Church years ago with those guys. Then he went to be Carl's right-hand man for years, the whole time in Hillsong, New York. Came back and ran Hillsong, California for Ben. And so I'm saying that because you're saying you get raised in the church and then so much happens. My point is, he got fired when all that stuff was about to come out, and he was good. Almost lost his faith. Guys like Bob Goff and people helped him. He just came on the podcast, should probably come on here because you could really use this as a pastor to encourage people.
Love it.
But he just realized he had all this resentment towards, Brian and then even Carl or people that he loved and cared about. We're going to do another one this week. But my point is this. I think about that and how many people got hurt. I think about Mars Hill and how many people I know who are grounded believers. You would know them, pastors who were all part of Mars Hill.
Yes.
That suddenly just got out of even walking in their journey.
Wow.
And I'm saying that to say, don't go into a church and focus so much on the perfection of the man or woman of God or whatever. Like, go where the doctrine's sound. I mean, go where they're serving people.
Yes. But
go there and say, Lord, what are you doing in this community? And how can I serve them as well? And just have grace. Like, I have friends who move to a town and go, well, we don't have a church that reads this translation and the pastor doesn't, have a beard and a suit and does this. I go, hey, they didn't have this 1,000 years ago in many ways. Just go where you can and serve and be gracious and bring up your stuff, because again, I'll connect you guys, but for Diego, Andrew, he came out of that whole Hillsong thing, and now he's going into churches and helping people
It's awesome.
who are burned out. But I see the Mars thing is like, Mars Hill thing is, man, so many people got burned because of Mark Driscoll because they're mad at him.
Right.
That shouldn't shake your faith. Like, Jesus entrusted himself to no one. I expect you to live at a standard. If I came in today and you're hammered over here, or
Right.
there's photos of, a woman's chest on the wall, I'm like, what kind of wriggle we got going here?
Right.
I know what's in, man, but we're trying to live into,
Yeah.
set a bar. So
These are interesting questions.
Yeah.
What do you got a lot of connections, a lot of guys, a lot of people. And when you reflect back on kind of what's happened over the last 5 years,
Yeah.
I guess, 4 or 5 years, what is going on with the ministry, with pastors, with burnout, with people in the church, with what is the heart of that? I've seen, a lot of people.
You must be connected with everyone because of but you're saying what has happened in general in 5 years?
Yeah, what's your view on it? Because it's kind of like, again, a lot of people have left the ministry, a lot of churches have folded, a lot of people have just hung it up and just say, you know what, this is just too much. Like, what have we done wrong on the inside, or like, why are guys burning out, or like, what is going on? I don't know. I've only been doing this for, I stepped in ministry around 20, but still, it's like, I don't remember a wave of like, just people, leaders just leaving the church. Everybody's kind of hanging it up.
Amazing. And this is going to sound critical, but it's like a Berean defending the faith. I think what happened is, again, we seen, what is it, Willow Creek, or one of those churches? What's that big church that blew up? Like Willow Creek or whatever on the other side. So you've seen these churches that kind of like blew up. Like, you had it, what was it, like Crystal Cathedral back in the day, or you had like the Jesus movement, and God did amazing things. But then you see like this Willow Creek model, you see the Rick Warren model, you see the Hillsong thing, and then you see these people come in, and I have no problem just talking about someone like Rob Bell, because they came in and kind of like just mocked the church and said, you don't really understand the Old Testament, and you're just reading some Hebrew writings. Yeah, you're preaching on Leviticus, and so you're kind of scolding everyone like you've got it all figured out. And I remember messaging Ryan Reese like, man, I'm listening to this, and this is crazy. Like, you're just blasting the church. So all these offended pastors' kids, kind of for 20 years, this what was it called? The Emergent Church.
Emergent Church, yeah.
It was like, does the Bible talk about
Elvis.
sexuality? Yeah, all that stuff. And so if you listen to a lot of Rob's teaching, you don't really hear about this friendship with Jesus. You hear this criticism of what everyone's doing wrong. And so you've got a generation of kind of entitled kids, what we've seen. And I'm not just going after this point, but I'm saying you said some pretty crazy stuff that I've had a lot of people repeat and regurgitate for years. This hits the church. This gets going. If you're raised in it, you're getting fed these new books every week from relevant communities and campuses, and they look cool, and the pastor's this, and I don't know that they're deep in the word. I don't know that they're theologically sound.
Right.
You're reading all the books, you're reading what's relevant, this book on sex, this book on homosexuality. Look, I'm an evangelist. If I wrote a book on evangelism, most publishers wouldn't put it out. If I wrote it on racism, homosexuality, or something controversial, they want to make all their money. Are we focused on being the church or not? These books, as I'm coming to faith, are permeating the church community, and I'm reading them, and I'm like, it's not really giving you direction. It's just telling you stuff. So this starts thriving, and then here's what happens. The Hillsong platform, all these things come out. It's built. Your generation right before us, I'd say, people writing books that just, it blew up. They went back to pastoring, and to be a 30-year-old when you've got best-selling books and you've got thriving podcasts, it's hard to pastor. It's hard to get criticism from Joe Smo. So what they're saying, the new thing is these 30-plus-year-old pastors who kind of blew up and became famous and relevant and hip, and they look just like us. I don't mean you and me, but they're my kind of person. They'd say, like, this is what fits into my lifestyle, consumerism. Then when they shepherd people, and people have issues or problems or struggles or whatever, a lot of these people are walking out of ministry, leaving their churches because they just want to be like a personality. So they're not getting to serve anyone. They're not getting to do it. So I look back, and that's why I quoted even Alicia Childers. I think this emergent, progressive, dangerous mindset just got in there, and there's not a conviction for what matters the most. I'm not saying there's not a struggle with sin, but I just think like I could be wrong saying this, but I don't know what Rob Bell's doing now.
Sure.
I don't know that you're pastoring people. I had a friend recently What is the fruit? And I'm not saying, Josh, if you went through some crazy season where you're like, I need to take some time
Sure.
off, that's life.
Sure.
But I'm like, what's the longevity are you in? Because, a book all of our listeners should read is by Eugene Peterson, a book, The Pastor. And he literally says, if a dog can do your job, meaning if a dog can shepherd sheep, don't think so highly of yourself. You know what I mean? And his point, and he's talking to himself, but it's amazing. The book, The Pastor, he translated The Message. Some people blast him for that, but I have friends, he's passed now, but that just loved him. That book to me is one of my top 5 reads.
Wow.
But I think that, and here's the big thing, and again, it's into Brian's realm, you and me could plan a church and go get the best worshipers, the best whatever, the best practices all week. And practices is a big thing right now. How do we just practice Christianity? Listen, in Israel right now, babies' heads are supposedly being cut off. Women are being raped. They're dying for their faith. There's things that are happening.
Yeah.
Did we die to our faith, or are we creating a culture of consumerism? I know I'm going around the mountain again, but I think when you get back to this gospel-focused living, I'm coming to church to hear my pastor Josh on his struggles in marriage, his wrestling with his kids. Yeah, he's making jokes, or a funny guy on the podcast or whatever, but it's all because we're on mission and community to proclaim and live out the gospel. And when you're doing that, the helper's the helper because we need help. We don't really need help anymore. What do I need help for? And I think that we hid behind this intellect and this practice and these ideas. And anyone listening, read Jesus' life 3.5 years and then watch Paul. Paul shows up into a town and it says the world was flipped upside down. They wanted to kill him. It wasn't flipped upside down. It was being flipped right side up. Then he leaves, and again, back to Acts 17, he shows up and he's like, look at all these idols. And he begins to preach, and he walks over to them, and you know what they say? What's this babble they're talking about? They didn't say, here's Brian with his cool podcast, or here's that pro skater, or here's that music influencer, or here's this whatever. They didn't build a platform. Who's this babbler? He couldn't even speak, yet he was, from the tribe of Benjamin, circumcised the 8th day, Hebrew of Hebrews. All he did was preach Christ and Christ crucified, and they knew him of the resurrection. And what I'm saying is, listen, I affirm the ministry you're doing. I affirm podcasts. I'm only mentioning people like Rob Bell because I'm like, a lot of people got shook. And a lot of people tore down the religion and go with how words are translated. And I'm like, guys, and I'll be real. I've had a lot of friends in certain areas of ministry who will tell me, I don't even really read the Bible. I kind of just read books. I go, books can be good, but and you can look at it from this way. We've got to be careful. Like Tim Keller, amazing man of God, raised up a lot of people. Because what he did in New York worked, doesn't mean that's the model. It doesn't mean that you need to go open an art show and a coffee shop and then hang out and be like, I love people. And I have a coffee shop. The gospel is the gospel. It's you sharing it.
Good.
It's having a coffee shop and sharing it. And here's what we know about the gospel. It's proclaimed, it's heralded, it's in word and deed. That famous saying by Francis of Assisi, and I don't think it was him that said it, and I think it's dangerous, and it wasn't even meant that way. Preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. Just think about that. If there was a massive tragedy in LA today and all the Muslims came and were so loving, and all the atheists and all the agnostics, and they were so loving, the most loving they could be more than Christians, that's not the gospel. You can love people, but it's not the gospel. If I was skating up to you on a bench at 24, ready to kill myself, divorcing my wife, and I sat down next to you on a bench, and I said, bleep this and bleep that, I'm over it. Pastor Josh sitting on a bench, what would you do? Would you be loving? And I walk away going, that guy was cool. Or would you say, Brian, here's the reality. We're living in a fallen world. Your marriage is crazy because it's fallen. This world's crazy. I'm even crazy. That's how I witness to people. I address myself. We're born in sin and we need forgiveness. And until you have a right relationship with Jesus, you're born again. Nothing will ever make sense. That's the practicality of the Bible.
Yes.
How do I do that? Well, why did he go to the cross? If we leave the cross out, we're leaving out redemption, we're leaving out forgiveness, we're leaving out what it's all about. Paul said to preach Christ and Christ crucified. And I think to get back to it all, that's it. Just the ministry of Jesus and the book of Acts is so practical. It's like going, and I always joke, you're preaching in the church and it's getting intense. I go, if you study the word Greek, the word go in Greek, you know what it means? And everyone's like, they won't say because they're like, I really know what it is. It means go. And then they're all laughing, but it's like, that's what I think the church has just got to do. Is like, I could write a lot of books on a lot of nonsense, but you know what? The marriage book was because marriage matters. I'm writing this book on evangelism because I want to go in and spend an hour and just point to the scriptures and say, this is all they did. And we know that the gospel is offensive because Isaiah says the word goes out, never returns void, so it's going to have an effect. We know that you'll be hated for my name's sake. We know that people are going to be offended by it. And that I just say to young pastors, like, focus on shepherding people, loving them. And if you have the gift to write, write. But I could tell you people now who people idolize, that I sadly know friends personally who said, yeah, they're like running out of ministry because they're so shook by it. Yeah, the world's getting crazy, but maybe that book wasn't the big thing then, or maybe this isn't, or whatever. You know, I mean, Paul, John the Baptist, Elijah were radical. You know, so
Yeah, I'm reminded, the Apostle Paul says, I'm determined to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. That's it, like it, I'm determined to know nothing. I mean, this guy,
not at all rubbish.
He sat under Gamaliel, right? He's the Pharisee of Pharisees. Like he's the top dog. Like he's the one who kept the law. And he's like, I could rattle off all the stuff. I wrote 2/3 the New Testament, and I'm just telling you, I only want to know Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I love that you nailed this down, because it's like, it is foolishness of the world. Let's be honest. We don't want to preach it because they're going to say, look at that babbler over there.
Think it's
like
bad news.
Because we're scared of what people think. We're scared we're not going to get a response, but it's so beautiful that locked inside the heart of every human is it needs the key of the gospel. Romans 1, they know he is there. They know there is a God, and they need the gospel to unlock that broken heart.
It is the power, not Josh's love, not Brian's church, not that book. It's God alone. And when we think we're helping him, we're just being vessels. And like you just said, like, it's not that we're building this platform. It's not that we're doing anything. It's that we're just available.
Yes.
And you see this, I mean, in the New Testament, you see all these unknown people. You see the woman of the two mites. She just honored God. You just see a practical thing. And look, I'll go places with people and I'll start witnessing to someone sitting there doing whatever. And they're kind of like this. And I'm like, yeah, the Lord's always, I don't have this profound ministry where he's giving me all these words and I don't chase the treasures and all this stuff. I just talk to him. A lot of times they don't want to hear it. We know that most people won't want to hear it, but his sheep will hear my voice. That's a promise.
Yes.
So when they hear, he does that. There's a pastor that you would probably know, and he's doing a church for 17 years. His son has a surf contest in Huntington, and he just messaged me and said, hey, I want to come up and just chat and talk. Sitting on the beach, eating donuts, whatever, hanging out with him. I'm in America. I love this.
Yeah.
And he just says, how do I get my church focused on evangelism? And I said, you just talk about evangelism. You use those verses. But the seminary I'm going through online right now, I'm listening and what they're tending to do, and I would challenge this. I wish I could just sit with some of the professors saying, well, the whole of the Bible is the gospel. It is. But when Jesus walked, from the moment he was anointed, he went and he proclaimed, and he didn't wait to get to know people. He was on mission that day. What if you wait 6 months to get to know them and they die in 5? I know God's sovereign,
right,
but he was proclaiming that day,
yes,
and some received and what it does is it releases you.
Yeah.
And I'll go to fight with you over who my favorite UFC guy is, or over who my favorite band is, or whatever, food, but I won't go stand in front of someone and share what and you can. It's in us. As soon as you think, of course you want to share the gospel. And it's hard to share in your cubicle at work when you're going to be a crazy Christian, but
right,
you're going to be judged for something anyway.
Right.
And I can see the tears in your eyes earlier when someone comes to faith. If the angels, don't celebrate because, the food was good or I got that wave. I mean,
right,
they're probably stoked, but
right,
they celebrate because a sinner repents.
Yes.
And we're on mission.
Yes.
We're busy building Christian bubbles, and this is all good, use it. I know something like a podcast like this. I know I'm going on a bit, but we have that time.
Yes.
Just focus on the gospel, childcare, as an accountant. I mean, how many police officers at jiu-jitsu I know are sheriffs or moms, and they just point to the Lord in small details, and it shakes people. Invite him into that space. You'll receive the power when he's upon you.
Yeah, we need, a church member came up to me probably, I don't know when it was, like 8-9 months ago, and that's what she was asking me, something like, what can we do in this city? What can we do?
Yeah.
What we do right now in the city? And I think it was a download. I think it was because
When she's coming to the lead pastor, it's probably a download. Yeah.
the word or the thing that I got, like I'm like sitting there and I'm like, it wasn't profound, but it was. I was kind of shocked that it fell out of my mouth because all of a sudden I just thought, it was just like, you know what? I think if we could just get everybody in our church to open their mouth about Jesus in every place that they're at.
That's profound.
Right? I mean,
is
just
profound,
like
I'm
literally,
just
like
telling
you have everything you need inside already. Just open thy mouth, right? It's just like open the mouth and just start talking about Jesus and find yourself to the gospel.
Yeah.
And you have done the work. Like you've accomplished the task. Like it's in the hands of God now. Like you've literally right? If every Christian in Southern California
so
just opened their mouth, we might have revival tomorrow.
Listen, okay, people listening, you are a chosen generation, royal priesthood, holy nation. You have the anointing of God. You're already his righteousness.
Yes.
Have you ever tried to walk on water?
Like when we're kids, we're
All
just
right.
like, yeah.
I have.
Yeah, yeah.
And I asked the men the other week, have you ever tried to walk on water? And they're all quiet.
Yeah.
And then some raise their hand. Why can't we walk on water? Because we're not anointed to do it. If I could do it, we'd be filming it at Santa Monica and we get a lot of money from the views.
Yeah.
But I'm anointed to what I'm called to do. And every Christian is anointed for what they're called to do. It's God's call, not ours. And you could write a book called Open Your Mouth and that's it. Remember that movie, I See Dead People? Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the little kid, like, I see dead people.
Yes.
That's how we should view the world. When people look at whoever their presidential candidate is and they hate their guts, do you see dead people?
That's good.
Like, if you've seen yourself years ago, do you see dead people? The only thing that can open their eyes is sharing. And what you said is exactly right. I'll be honest, like some of the last few years and the things we're pushing on Christians to do, it's distracting from the gospel because you could let's say you fixed, all the drug use, all the issues with guns, all the racism, all the rest of it. Is that Christianity? Are we trying to make this world look like heaven? Well, the kingdom invades. It's about souls. It's about the gospel. And that was the point I was going to make. I remember now, but you talked about Paul. The new danger for this generation is trying to sound smart. Paul never flexes intellect. He preached Christ. I had Alistair Begg one time saying, I could preach all through Nehemiah and it could never be the gospel because I'm just talking about what I know if I'm not bringing it to Jesus.
Wow.
And so those scriptures matter. But you could read the Levitical law and if you don't point to who it's about, you just knew that this people group years ago knew all these things, did all these things, refrained from shellfish, got circumcised, but it's not telling you in modern day how it's activated in the mystery of Christ. If it's all towards that, how do you change your community? Proclaim Jesus. Now, how you do that's different.
Right.
Do you show someone a tract? Christians are afraid to.
Right.
Are you allowed to use Christianese words? Christians are afraid to.
Right.
If it's in the Bible, I'm going to use it. God can deal with that.
Yes.
But be the mom, be the dad, be the police sergeant, be the guy selling donuts. Just be there and say, Lord, for these few minutes, probably going to see you for 2 minutes and then they're on their way. But Lord, open doors for the ones who stop and the ones who have issues. And, they say 80% of Jesus's ministry was he was interruptible. So he was actually on mission.
Wow.
People showed up and then he's like, he knew, but then
Interesting.
he was available.
He was available.
Came into the service. I'm not saying when the guy in the back shouting you down, like,
Sure.
hey, bro, if you're not there for the right reasons,
Right.
but interruptible.
Yes.
And I'd say, Lord, where are you moving?
God's
What are
bringing
you doing?
people to you.
You will see him move. And I think that's why the first few months of me trying to disprove the Bible, I seen God so much because I was watching this show to see where Satan's voice is in music and
Right.
God gave that affirmation. I wanted a Bible and God gave. I think God's doing more miraculous things in the world that he's not allowing us to see because it's for those individuals who are like encountering him.
What do you think about all this stuff going on in the world right now? We got the wars breaking out, and I look at it from different angles these days because, especially with the way the world is spinning and turning, and news oftentimes seems to be propaganda to distract us and pull us in different directions, get Christians all fired up over things. And Joe Rogan rattled off like so many times. He's like, the top 20 Christian websites during the pandemic time were all ran by Russian bots. and the Christians were
Wow.
basically being
Crazy.
turned like cattle by Russians. Working over all these Christian websites, and all the Christians are just pushed into one thing. And when I see all this stuff breaking out, I always wonder, like, do we need to pray for Israel? Absolutely. Do we need to pray for the Palestinians? Yeah. Do we need to pray for people to come to Jesus? Do we need to pray for peace? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to pray for our saints. We need to pray for the enemies. We need to pray for everyone.
Yeah.
And we need to lift this in the hands of God. And it is sad to see what's happening over there. Are they justified in what they're doing? Hey, every country can defend themselves, do whatever you want, But it's like, it's amazing how wrapped up we get into these things.
Yeah.
And I wonder, right? Like,
well, I'd say this because so yes, obviously pray for Israel, but then what about Hamas? Well, Jesus says, forgive them, they know not what they do. So we should be thinking that about everyone. I mean, America has become defined by a truck with guns and God first. And I'll be honest, I don't know if it's really God first. I think it's more your nation first sometimes.
Interesting.
And I get the Calvary pre-trib rapture.
I receive
idea. I get the, I'm proud of you for even going with the Israel Hamas thing to give a perspective on it.
Yeah.
But as you look at it all, you've got this pre-trib rapture kind of Calvary, Darby, and the rest perspective.
Sure.
You've got this post-mill that's kind of coming in, and I'm like, where do I sit? I'm like, I don't know, but I know Jesus told me to occupy till I come. So I can put a finger out the window on the freeway today or not. I can be loving or not. If I was in Israel and I watched someone grabbing a kid, would I hit them over the head with that chair, that guitar, Telecaster? Probably. In my life, it came to this. If a guy was grabbing someone in the street, would I stop him?
Sure.
If a guy was raping a woman, would I stop him? If someone tried to stab me, would I take it off them? And if I had to, stab them back, go as far with the gun. That's as much as I think about the conflict side.
Sure.
But the rest of it, I'm like, too many people are swayed by this, like, this pastor, everything with Israel is always the end times for someone. Everything's always the Antichrist. But Jesus did say, watch. I do believe we can know the seasons. Even when he says no one knows the day or the hour.
Sure.
I mean, if Ray Bentley's right, Rosh Hashanah, that's a Jewish feast.
Right.
Is he pointing to that? But can you know the seasons? People say, well, we're not going to know. He says, but you're not a thief. We're not. I mean, excuse me, he's coming as a thief, but we're not in the dark.
Yeah.
So am I looking? Yeah. Am I watching? Yeah. Well, Brian, how do you live your life? Look, I sit with people who on a drive will go an hour into the Illuminati, the end times, conspiracy, all this stuff, and I'll talk about all of it. I'd rather listen to all that than watching Breaking Bad or some Marvel movie. And at the end, they go, well, what do you do? And I go, nothing. I drive up and hang out with Josh and the crew today because God sovereignly, this is what he's ordained. Yeah. And tomorrow, if there's another war going on, I will say that when I think about rumors and wars and rumors of wars and such, I do think there's some wars that may be going on that are just rumors right now. I think, I don't know if these wars are wars because I've seen some footage I shouldn't have seen, over my life, just videos of things in Chechnya and violence. And I go, it looks really different than a lot of what we're sold.
Wow.
So I think we're completely deceived. The media lies. I think 2 Corinthians 4:4, Satan's the god of this age. I think it is all a conspiracy. If you said, Brian, is the earth flat or not? It doesn't matter, but I think it's all a conspiracy. I think there's a firmament. I think if I came on here pushing either cause, I'm wasting your time. I'll talk about it and have a laugh, but I want readers to be mature.
Sure.
But I just think, Lord, Ephesians 2:10, we're your workmanship, like a guitar being strummed. What do you need me to walk out your poem today? And that's it. John 4:34, my will is to do the one who sent me. Like, that's it. I mean, plan, as a pastor, plan and look what's ahead. We need that. But for someone in my position, I'm like, what do you have? Like, okay, Lord, that's it. But America should be watching because I think a lot of the radicalized politics have deceived a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think racism is near way people have projected it, because my generation, when we got to America, we celebrated everything. Skating, celebrated everything. You have idiots who have issues with this and say stupid stuff, and I get it, but the level it's played up now, some of the posts I'm seeing today who are for Palestine or for Israel and the agendas and the reasons, it's more about conflict and like you said, let's just be forgiving and loving and kind to everyone and believe God's at work. But call out what's wretched. Killing people is wrong.
Yes.
Cutting heads off. If you're raping kids, if you're part of a religion that it's okay to lie to people, then it's not true.
Yeah, I don't know, I see in this day and age, and I don't know if a lot of people, I see this a lot, that social media is the new weapon. It is basically being used to manipulate the minds of people into constant fear, into
Yes.
constant anxiety and constant stress. And I mean, it's really bizarre that that media is the weapon now, and it is the game, and it is
Yeah.
whoever can control. It's always been the game. Whoever controls the newspapers, whoever control, it's always been this way, because they can put whatever narrative into the minds of the people, and they can sway you with a story in whatever direction they want to, and they can get you to do things through that.
Yeah.
I don't know why Christians don't wake up to this, because once again we get distracted with a lot of these things.
Yep.
And you have to be able to sift through it and find the truth. But back to your point, like, we got to get back to Jesus and Him crucified. We got to get back to doing these things and get back to the most important thing, lest we be distracted. I mean, we will have a distraction show up every single month for the next 50 years. I promise you, it will.
Satan is distracting us.
And we got 2024 showing up. I mean, presidential election. I mean,
I don't know what's coming back. Is the mask coming back? Is this war to do that? I mean, let's just be realistic. If it was you and me and we went in the place of leadership, my first question is, who nominated Bill Gates to just say, I'm just super into mosquitoes, so this is my rig for a while. Why is no leader just
It's
I
crazy,
don't know why
man.
this dude's telling us.
Right.
And then you read Revelation, these flying things that prick people in the air. I'm like, you're spending billions of dollars, let alone the other stuff that I don't want to say that'll probably get our podcast taken off the air. But I'm like, again, I've said it 3 times maybe now. Jesus entrusted himself to no one because he knew what was in him. Do I trust you? If you're my pastor, I trust you as far as you can be a man. Sure. And my trust is that when you wrong me or you have an issue or we're on bad ground, you're like, Brian, I'm sorry. That's biblical love and trust. But do I think every person... I mean, it's not that hard to take a bunch of these people's money and fix the world if you wanted to. To go... people that are starving, you can fix that. Elon, I get it. Let's not focus on Mars. Let's focus on feeding people who are dying today.
Wow.
And then aside from that, the people I know who are very high level that I wouldn't even go into names and stuff, who bring up what they know and what they experienced and just things that have happened. The whole shooting thing in Vegas and the night it's happening, people even sending me things saying, oh, this is what's really... I think this world is way more occult. I think leaders are in place in opposition. I think we're playing the Roman circus thing where we're all distracted. But then again, you're Christians who are worshiping Beyonce and she's singing about, cleansing herself with the page of the Bible.
Wow.
You've got all these leaders who are, I get it, And I want to say this, when I was bringing up Mark Driscoll earlier, it wasn't to bash Mark. It was just to say people who are struggling with a church collapses and they're just bailing on their faith.
Right.
All of it is just... Jesus could have brought up a million things about that day. He could have gave us a million thoughts now. He said, I do what I see the Father doing.
Wow.
He came to preach the truth.
Wow.
It wasn't about overthrowing it. I think a lot of people are going to have and I don't mind people having guns, just don't point them at me. But I'm saying, you know what I mean? Or people that don't need it, whatever.
Right.
But I'm like, I think a lot of people are even distracted by this, America as a nation. It's like... we should be praying and preaching and believing. And I heard someone say this on the radio. What if God does this radical awakening through this thing that's happening in Israel? I mean, God's allowing it. I'm not saying it's his judgment. We don't know who he's individually working on, but I'm like, this has been thousands of years.
Right.
What if revival breaks out in a different way where just, of the Lord does radical things? I mean, pray for it all,
Yes.
So.
That's the beauty of the big worldwide story, is that it is in God's hands, praise God. And he does know what's going on, and he's not surprised by any of it.
Yeah.
And he has a plan in it, and he has a plan to save. He has a plan to redeem. He has a plan to resurrect. And I like looking at all the crazy chaos going on in the world through that lens. He's, he's not taken back. He's not like, oh no, look what Satan's doing. He's actually, kind of had a conversation with him just a few days ago. And I said, have you considered my servant Job? He isn't a righteous man. And
nominated him.
So the Lord's not surprised by any of the plans of the wicked. The Psalms actually says that he laughs at them.
Yeah.
He actually just laughs in heaven and says, that's cute. That you're doing checker moves, this and that. God's playing chess, of course, and he's 10 steps ahead. He has a plan to redeem and to do great things. And I think Christians should not live in fear, and they must live on the foundation of God's word. And I do think, back to what's happened in the church, and I think pastors, I think that the foundation was sand. I think the commodity that we were selling is almost like an infomercial, like piece, instead of selling quality goods. Really, the Word of God. The Word of God is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. Like, it helps me see in the dark. Like it helps me be a tree planted by the streams of water that brings forth fruit in its season. And my leaves never wither. I don't burn out. And whatever I do, we ultimately prosper, we're successful. Because again, we meditate on His word day and night. Yeah. And we get away from the word. We get away from discipling the people in His word. We get away from preaching the pure message of the gospel, staying focused on Jesus. We candy coat, we sell candy. It's just, what do you say? You make people get sick, they slowly fall away, and cancer shows up. Yeah. Yes. The bottom falls out. There's no foundation, and the house starts to fall. And, I don't know, that's what the old men told me when it came to LA. What should I do? He said, preach the word, love the people, preach the word, love the people, preach the word, love the people. And, that's the only thing I've been able to cling on to, in the midst. This city is a circus, man. It's crazy here.
It's the Colosseum. It's a distraction, and it's like this. If I had a Bible right here, I'd say, this thing's alive, but if you don't, you can read it, but if you don't believe it, it may as well not be. And when you realize the Bible is the only truth on this planet, like, sure, someone built this table. Sure, this is, fluoride water probably by now. Let's go there with Joe Rogan. There's truth.
I'm with you.
Yeah, there's truth, but that's God's word. And when Paul told Timothy, do the work of an evangelist, that was to encourage the church to good works. I look around and the radical verse in Revelation, and my pastor was preaching it recently, when it says they'll wage war against the Most High. I was kind of like, this is kind of crazy. Like, God allows the four horsemen to ride, don't get me wrong, but they wage war. Like, what kind of deception are we talking? You've got this AI stuff, you've got all these technological gurus who are obsessed with it. But again, God's going to show off and boast and the miraculous, and whether you're taking the Calvary or the Jeff Durbin or your millennial, I'm just like, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
Like, I have inklings of where I sit, but I'm just not tripping. And I want to raise my kids to know, like, do you have that kind of faith? Like, listen, there's kids captive right now because of what took place. What was it, October 7th or whatever? There's women who probably have vile things happening. Do we have the kind of faith where we've already died? It's a taking up your cross. I think that's the way we've got to live, and that's the act of faith. Revival breaks out in those times. People who are dead see that and go, you have a hope I don't have. That's what the apostles had. That's what the disciples had. They counted it, a blessing to be called worthy of being persecuted for Jesus. So
yes. Yeah, we eschatology is an interesting one because I've seen it. We got a group text going on with some of the brothers, and these dudes. I am the pre-mill pre-trib. I still hold to this position.
Pre-mill pre-trib.
Yeah, but we have an on-mill in there who's constantly battling. We have a couple post-mills in there constantly battling, and so so it's fine. But what I've continued to say is, why would we allow our eschatology to steer the whole of our theology?
Yeah.
So. We have primary or essential issues, Orthodox Christianity, like virgin birth, Jesus being God, His death, burial, and resurrection. Like, these are essentials. You don't believe in these things, you're not a Christian, right?
Yeah.
But secondary issues that we actually divide over in some cases, like baptism, for instance. Do you sprinkle or do you baptize? Do you do babies or you do adults only? And churches actually do, the Presbyterians, brothers, who we divide with the church. But these third-dairy issues of eschatology, to which we actually don't divide churches over. We have multiple views within churches, and we all and we all actually agree at the center point that Jesus will return, just nobody knows when. So, the fact that we build our worldview around our eschatology is, very interesting. I hesitate to do so. Again, I know my position. If I'm going to
Yeah.
preach the revelation, you're going to hear it a certain way. I'm going to preach it with authority. I'm going to preach it with conviction. But I do think that we may be allowing our eschatology to build steer our worldview a bit too much, and then before you know it, it's navigating our everyday, our thoughts, like today, our eschatology of all things.
And the way you would preach it as my pastor, that's what you would do. And, like our pastor did, he actually preached through Revelation and he never gave a stance. And he preached only what was there. So all the more Calvary folks, like, when are we getting to the rapture and the urgency? And that is relevant to focus on the urgency because people are heading into eternity. But I think you just do what you just said. Hey, here's my stance on it.
Yes.
But the primary thing is, do you have a relationship with God? Then the call is the Great Commission. We're to study, know us, show ourselves approved, but it isn't so you know everything. The call to go is, Jesus encounters the demonized guy and tells him, hey, chill, you need to sit for a bit. You got the woman caught in the act of adultery just to go and sin no more. You got the woman with the 5 husbands at the well. The disciples are meant to go there and be the ones witnessing. They went off to get food, but she goes off and starts witnessing. So to me, again, not just because I'm an evangelist, folks. I don't mean a televangelist.
Right.
It's getting up and being his workmanship. It's getting up and doing what he's called you to do. That's it. And it's funny, I have a video on my phone, and this is funny because you're saying I know everyone. I have a video on my phone from John Piper where years ago I did something for their website, and it just came up on my phone recently. And I said, what's your stance on the end times? What's your stance on Daniel 9? Because that was kind of the verse I came to faith in, the 70 weeks.
Yeah.
Chuck Missler.
Oh, wow.
And so he is in a meeting this is when he was a pastor there, and he's younger. And he says, Brian, I love what you're doing. Thanks for the stuff we did together. I'm going to go to my grave not having a solid grounding on eschatology. And back then, I was all about, the end times and my theology. And now, but I would say this, you need to preach like he is returning and like people are going into eternity. Because the whole saying that Paul rested as a Calvinist but preached like an Arminian, it's kind of funny. Like, he's secured in his faith. We're not schizophrenic believers who are worrying if we're in the Lord or not. Conviction's good, but Romans 8:1, there's no condemnation. Now no condemnation. But we should proclaim like they need to hear the gospel from us, because how will they hear unless we go, unless we've been sent, unless we preach?
Yes.
That's how we should live. So I'd say it like this. If you said, Brian, what would your vision for a church be? And I thought of this recently. I went and spoke at a school up on Lake Arrowhead, drove up for 2 hours by myself, super tired, got there, drank a load of whatever to get woken up coffee. And the guy putting on this 15 minutes of me to speak to these kids, I preached to them for 20 minutes, a little bit longer. They're all over the place talking. I proclaimed the truth. 120 kids. 90% of the kids came down for prayer. And it wasn't this hey, just raise your hand, whatever. It was the gospel. It was about, the Lord, death, life, all the rest. But as I was driving down, in tears, I was like, Lord, I think if I pastored a church, which I don't want to be a lead pastor. If I ever am, it's the Lord, not me. But I think, could I bring 100 people from my community? And as I'm about to speak, could I hand the microphone to one of them and say, tell these kids about Jesus? And I think that's the foundation. We need our prayer. We need times pursuing the Spirit as a community. We need the elder meetings and all the rest. But have I trained and taught and showed them how to step in right then? And they say, well, I'm not a preacher or not. This isn't preaching or not. This is you living your life, the call. Could you tell them what Jesus has done, why we need forgiveness, what it means to follow him? I think that's the Great Commission message.
Awesome.
And that's move with empathy, compassion. That was what moved Jesus, but that's the message he delivered. And that, this probably sounds pretty cynical, but I feel again, at 44, I'm guys, I think there's been some craziness on the horizon for churches for a few decades. I think there's just been a looseness and a laziness, and I think people have fallen away from focusing on the gospel. And that's what I see over and over with Jesus, just the same thing. His ministry was only 3.5 years. Proclaimed, so yeah.
3.5 short years, and it's still ministering. Still, you do a podcast called Foolishness.
Yeah.
And it's based on a verse.
Yeah, so, it's funny. I don't even know why I grabbed this in my... Let me see if I have this. Do I? There you go.
Yes.
I just got these stickers made.
I love it.
So, It's based on 1 Corinthians 1:18. You know,
Yes.
the message of the cross is foolishness to those that are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it's the power of God. So when skaters are like, what does this mean? Well, guys, what I'm preaching to you is foolishness. What I'm talking about is crazy. It's like that Eminem movie, 8 Mile, where the guy gets up and he makes fun of the guy before he preaches about him. I know what you think about me. When you tell the world this should sound crazy, you
Right.
shouldn't agree with this, I'll be in a skate park with 500 kids and I can see them smoking weed, I can see them laughing, and I'll say, guys, this all sounds crazy, right? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, here's why. That's the gospel.
Yes.
Is he speaking to you? Do you hear his voice? So I do that. It's about 150 episodes in,
Yes.
super low budget,
Yeah.
me in the house. We could jump on and just like practical.
Yes.
And I just give it to the Lord to say, people who know me, maybe the sheep I've encountered over my life, can they listen to one of those and be full and fed? And I'm all over the place today on that. I'm way more like, we're just goofing off, you know? Like, so.
And you're speaking in churches from time. You're doing conferences. You're doing retreats. You're doing Sunday mornings.
So basically, I was going to go plan a business and do all this stuff, and our church said, Brian, you're crazy. You get called to speak at schools or colleges, universities, all these churches around wherever the world. It's really random. You should raise full-time support, which I was like, no way. 1 Corinthians says, God has commanded those who do the work of the gospel make their living from it. If we were in an elder meeting and I said, hey, he's addicted to porn, you'd say, well, that's wrong. It's such a big deal. Yet that verse says God has commanded. So wait a minute, you're telling me, didn't Paul make tents? Well, yeah, 3 times. Right. And that wasn't specific. It was for reasons.
Yes.
So they challenged me in 2013, step out. I called a lot of leaders and they said, look, don't be a monkey going everywhere because they offer you this or that, which I never would. I never asked for anything. You want me to do that? I'm going. Lord, you know what I need. And so from that, I raised support, and the mission was missions, marriages, ministry. Focused on the gospel, coming into your church, proclaiming the truth, real structured workbook model or preaching. Marriages, wrote this book because couples were struggling. What could I give them that helped us? And then ministry is just everything. So a lot of my ministry is, it's the Lord's ministry, but I'll land on a Thursday, I'll do a youth thing. We talked about it earlier. I'll do like a marriage or a men's thing, Friday night or Saturday morning, and then preach in a church on Sunday. And I'll go away for a couple of days or fill a pulpit for someone. Or say you saying, Brian, I'm sick. Could you drive up and preach? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's random, but it's kind of like Paul without his knowledge, but I've got the word of God. So
yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That you're doing it, man. You're doing it here in Southern California. A lot of people being impacted and ministered to, and
encourages me just to be going.
Yeah. And people can find you online. Where can they find you?
BrianSumner.net, because someone cybersquatted.com years ago and wouldn't give it to me.
What?
But I like the net because it's kind of like you're casting the net.
Yeah.
So it's
That's great.
So BrianSumner.net,
Yeah.
Brian Sumner on Instagram, and then that's it. And honestly, I'm the guy that if you message me, I'll probably get back to you. And I'll probably tell you about that conspiracy video you sent me or whatever. Because, this is funny. My pastor is so opposed to like social media, like about 30-something, but he has one of those flip phones.
Yeah.
And he's always talking about how it's bad. And he's not meaning me.
Yeah.
And I said, and this is profound what he said. I said, you think it's bad? I'm always on social media.
Yeah.
And he said, without even blinking, you might be the only person on there that's actually social. And I was like, wow. And I was like, I am. I mean, like, I talk to people. I got people who want to kill themselves and I'll be on the phone. So,
wow.
BrianSumner.net, all that stuff, the podcast out there. And I'm not pushing this, go speak, do all this stuff. I just like, Lord, but maybe that's what I'll start doing more because I do want to reach and encourage. And I just wish people were preaching to me all my life and I didn't hear it,
Yes.
So. Yeah.
Well, I think you should, and I hope it happens more. And I don't know, dude, it's been a joy, like just to spend a couple hours with you. And no, serious, it's and you're you're a special guy, man. And I mean, from Liverpool to Southern California, Huntington Beach, and you're just swinging for the fence for Jesus' name and for Jesus' glory. And hit up Brian, reach out to him, check out his book, check out the podcast. There aren't a lot of voices going as strong and as forward. And so, I like clarity. I like
And
direct. I really want to see the gospel move forward here in SoCal, especially. We feel like we're losing California a bit, and we just need Christians, more Christians like Brian. Really just to step up and just do it, man. Nike, just get after it. Just figure out what's going on right in front of you and do it. And so, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
And to defend that, and I mean to like try and sound humble, I don't know what else to put in a sermon. So I'm saying like the words are already there. Apply what's worked in your marriage or what you faced or what you struggled. But I think there was a lot of pressure on people to perform and give sound bites. And I'm like, you just like you being moved or me being moved. God's word will do that. So just stick to the main thing, So appreciate you and all these guys and what we're doing. I think we got like 5 episodes in right there.
Yeah. Dude, come
And I
back.
bet if someone bails and I'm not doing something that morning, as long as you tell me by 8, I'll be up here. So
Dude, come on anytime. Seriously. It's a joy.
Eschatology.
Yeah, we got lots to talk about. Dude, thanks so much.
Amen.